flat zero. I still have one charge TM. I'm holding on to it. It's like my golden nugget. I got to keep it.
Yeah.
All right. Okay. So we're live. We'll just give it a moment for everyone to have a chance to join.
Yeah, I'm tweeting it out right now.
Let's go, Scrub Stream.
Stream so much today. Kind of probably destroyed my notification system on YouTube. All right, let us know if you can hear us.
Boop, 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 boop.
Okay, Trader Fox says hello. It's going Midnight Mailman. Chris, you can always count on you. All right,
Why can I
perfect.
never see your live stream? Are you live on Twitch?
No, just on YouTube. Like,
Okay.
this is what I find weird. So, and I'm not sure it's because like of Streamlabs or because I'm using like Restream. Because to stream to both, I have to use Restream, which basically
Yeah.
streams to one, and then restreams it to, as the name implies,
The other platforms.
to the other two.
Yeah.
But whenever I stream on both, my total audience between YouTube and Twitch is always lower than if I just stream on YouTube.
Yeah.
Like when I stream on both, like I average probably like around like 175, 200, which is like I'm still very happy with. But when I stream just on YouTube, it's like 250 to 300.
But
Yeah.
why though?
I have no idea. Obviously the delay is bigger and
Yeah, so I keep refreshing your page and I can't out there right
Yeah, I can't see the stream
I see it
either.
now.
all right, welcome everyone. We just give a moment for everyone to come join. So, anyways, streaming considerations. I like and doing the restream thing actually takes away one of the things I really liked about Twitch is like the super low latency. Like there was like basically like a 2-second difference between what I said and what gets streamed to Twitch, as opposed to on YouTube it's like a 10-second latency. Obviously, I can probably adjust it and fix it, but when I do restream, it's like a 15-second, 20-second difference. So then, like, it's almost impossible for people to send like invites to me. So then, like, when I finish a battle, it's like 10 invites. So yeah, Zionic is dedicated. PvP over sleep. As you can see by his.
I'll sleep when my enemies are defeated.
He sleeps with his enemies are defeated, right? Or his soldiers are prepared, as this
Yeah.
stream would imply. Okay, let's just get started. We're gonna do intros first, and then we have like basically like 6 different metas that we'll be covering in today's stream. We'll be covering the Boulder Cup, Twilight, Tempest, Kingdom, Season 1 regionals, and then Nightmare. We won't be covering Rainbow or Jungle because there hasn't been a lot that's changed in the meta for those ones. Like probably the biggest change in Rainbow is Raichu with Charm. That's like pretty much the extent of the changes in the meta, which is not really game changing in any manner at all. So we're gonna keep it to those 6, and we have infographics prepared by the various YouTubers and one prepared by our friends at Ghost Stadium. So thank you for that. But let's just start with the intro. So just so everyone's familiar, Jake, why don't you start with yourself?
Hey everyone, I am Jake. You can find me on YouTube at Call Me Jake. I make all kinds of videos regarding PvP.
And, okay, I'm a teacher, so tell me a fun fact.
A fun fact.
Fun fact. What do we say?
Like about myself?
About yourself.
Okay, so One fun fact is I used to play hockey from the age of 3 to the age of 11.
Okay, very nice. What position?
I played I believe it was
Play wing,
On the-
center,
on the ice.
defense, goalie.
no, it was either I think right defense maybe.
Yeah, right defense. Yeah, no.
Yeah, it was right defense for sure.
All right, perfect. Rough them up. All right.
Yeah,
perfect.
wrestle them up.
Perfect. Jay, are you there? You know, Jay's just currently showing off his logo. You know, he's very proud of it, so he wanted to make
No, I'm
sure
here.
that everyone had a chance to look at it. So, Jay.
No, Jake said hockey. I wanted to.
Oh, you're the Vancouver
Oh,
Canucks.
Canucks.
Well, okay.
All right, I see you.
If you feel a little torn by that, Jay, but that's, what did you introduce yourself and tell us a fun fact?
Well, yeah, my name's Jay. Thank you, King Jay Devon. Obviously, PvP tuber, PvP YouTuber, whatever you want to call it. Fun fact about me. About me? I really can't think of anything super fun about myself. How sad is that?
No, just think of anything.
Okay, no, I got something. I got it. Fun fact about me. I used to want to be a professional jazz singer.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay. Jay, you know, you can't just say you want to be a professional jazz singer and not give us, you know, a line or two, chorus or two,
A line or two.
a kind of chorus or two.
on stream.
Wait, hold on. Let's get some smooth jazz playing real quick.
Okay.
Let me sip some more Coke first.
Okay. All right. Let's do this.
Stars shining bright above you. That's it. That's all you're getting.
Oh, man! Teasing
my
us,
God,
That's
teasing
good. I
us.
want you to keep going.
Jeez. All right,
Damn, dude.
Jay. I propose when we sell out the O2 Arena in London, you're gonna open for us, okay?
I'll do it.
Yeah.
We have to come up with a battler's anthem.
Battler's Anthem. All right, that was awesome. Okay. All right, John. I'm not sure how you're gonna top that. All right.
Oh man.
Okay.
Hi guys, my name is John. I go by J Farmakis or J Farm. Fun fact about me, I'm an investment specialist. So not only do I specialize in PvP, but I also specialize in investments.
Okay. Give us
Smart man.
one good market tip. Where should Zionic put all these investments? All these dollars racking up.
Into Niantic.
Get some private equity shares of Niantic, right? Buy into some of that $2-3 billion valuation, right?
Right.
Hopefully get a piece, and Zionic does well. Zionic does well, right? So that's awesome. So thank you, John. Zionic, when do we turn it to you?
Hey, what's going on, guys? I'm Zionic, another PvP content creator. A fun fact about me is that my wife and I have 2 house pet rabbits named after raptors from Jurassic Park, Blue and Echo.
Okay, very nice. Well,
Which a lot of you think is cats from my earlier videos in the background. You're like, is that a cat? No, it was a rabbit.
Are they pretty big?
No, I would say like half the size of like a normal monitor, like a 27-inch monitor. Just kind of take that in half, and that's about the size of the rabbit.
Okay, very nice. And obviously, you guys are on this channel, so you guys should know me. But my name's King. Fun fact about me. I thought this is a very good question. So I read a book every week from the 6th grade to the 12th grade, no matter what the week was. Just read one book every week to improve
Wow.
improve my reading comprehension. So it was a lot of fun. But then when I went to university, I stopped because I already had too much reading.
You already read all the books in the world.
Yeah. But okay. So I know we have a lot of metas to cover. So why don't we get started? So we're gonna have the person that created the infographic walk us through it, and then we're gonna just have an overall discussion around that particular meta and our thoughts around it, and as well give our opinions on whether or not we think people should be choosing this meta for their cup. So when we start with Boulder, and we'll start with our main man Zionic.
Yep. So yeah, this Boulder meta I kind of whipped together as an important infograph on how dominant Metachan is with 2 shields. This is 96% win rate against the meta with 2 shields. Like he's absolutely broken. So obviously we can see that Metachan is the center because Boulder I think definitely revolves around Metachan. The things that can stop a Metachan in 2 shields would be that Torterra, ironically, of 2 shields. As long as you shield both things, Power Up Punch or whatever it is, you'll finish off with Razor Leaf, and then Gallade with Charm will delete a Metachan. So that's kind of how I've structured this infograph. And then Skarmory at the top as our flyer will counter that Gallade and Torterra, but you do have to watch out for the close combat. It won't KO you, but it'll do a ton of damage. And then moving back, Bronzong can beat that Jirachi. Jirachi can beat the Gallade Torterra. And then, it kind of cascades down from there. And then we have some of our other fighters in the bottom right, which Gallade can beat, the Confusion users can beat, and then we have the Mud Boys as well down there, and both of these guys kind of cover the tanks, but the Mud Boys obviously get deleted by grass type moves, so that Razor Leaf, that Leaf Blade. Now, granted, in the mirror of, in the Gallade versus Swampert will win because it gets to that Hydro Cannon faster than Leaf Blade, but I was just emphasizing that grass type damage is what's going to be handling those guys, but then the fighters can also take care of them as well. And then over to the left, we have our signature tanks that we see that can really lock down that Skarmory if you can switch lock it in. And then Metachan obviously handles those guys as well. So that's kind of just the nature of what that meta is, and I think it definitely revolves around Metachan. And then I think you definitely cannot sleep on Swampert because he can get so many Hydro Cannons off so fast. So
yeah, I think for the most part, people view the main players, the core tiny meta for this cup that we'll see on virtually every team in Boulder to be Metachan and Skarmory, and then Swampert, just because Swampert has a positive matchup against Skarmory. Turning over to the other guys, with those 3 in mind, what other 3 would you recommend to complement, and what kind of lines would you see being played? I know, Jay, you've been doing some Boulder battles. I've seen your streams. And I see some of your videos. What have you seen been pretty successful?
So I was usually everyone's going to swarm in at once. So I was trying to wait just a second. But definitely, obviously, delayed. Wait, what? The 3 you were mentioning is Metachan, Skarmory, Swampert, right? Yeah, so Gallade really fits well in there. The Confusion can just put out the damage super quick. Against Metachan. So for the most part, he stands a chance. But, the thing about Gallade, what I've liked to call him is basically just the ninja of the Boulder Cup 2.0 because the Metachan matchup with Confusion in and of itself, but then also, only takes, was it 3 Confusions to get to Leaf Blade, which can threaten Swampert, since Swampert could be so dominating. I mean, even if they don't have Swampert and they bring a Quag, that's still a huge threat. Wishikash can still be a huge threat. Then you see Poliwrath, which is kind of a wild card for the most part, but that Leaf Blade can, threaten a lot of things that otherwise might be almost over dominating in the Boulder Cup 2.0. I feel like he evens things out. I feel like he's kind of a peacekeeper.
Okay, so you like and you recommend confusion over charm.
Yes. Well, I do. Yes. The reason, I mean, I feel like Charm can delete Metachamp faster, but overall with Confusion in general matchups as a whole, Confusion is just going to do a better job against the entire meta, especially with the Boulder Cup. Charm, if you opt for Charm with all the steel that's going to be present, I mean, you see Jirachi, Bronzong, Skarmory, Steelix, Probopass, Bastiodon. They're going to resist Confusion already, but it's going to do better overall.
Okay, all right. Any advocates for charm on Gallade?
Not really.
No, yeah. I think
Right.
confusion probably makes
No.
the most sense. And I still, when shields are up, for the most part, I still feel pretty comfortable in that Gallade versus Medicham matchup.
Yep.
Like if I'm leading, or if we both switch in, or the Medichamp is at a very low health or half health, and you switch in, then even after a couple of power punch, I still feel pretty comfortable with that matchup. Okay. Besides Gallade, any other Pokemon that people should be considering?
I would say Torterra for sure.
Okay. Tell me a little bit more. Why Torterra? In
Well,
addition
because-
to Gallade, or in replacement?
Oh, you. No, I probably, yeah, probably just as a replacement.
Mhm.
If you don't have a Gallade, maybe, because when I was practicing with Torterra, whenever it has a shield advantage against like other Pokemon, it can do really, really well because of that heavy damage with Razor Leaf. Obviously, Razor Leaf will shred through Quag, Swampy, and Whiscash. And as well, it can shred through the water fighters, the plane fighters, quite well. Especially if it has the shield advantage. But you'll definitely want to watch out for things like Skarmory for sure,
Yeah.
and the Jirachi and Bronzong.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think Torterra is definitely a really strong pick, and any Pokemon that has Stab Razor Leaf is always a threat. It is a lot of these Pokemon in this. Some of these Pokemon are very tanky, but some of these are very very squishy, like Torterra. And
Yeah.
having to shield like almost no matter what against Machamp is a bit challenging, but certainly like if you delete the Swampert, it eliminates a humongous threat to the team. Any other picks or considerations?
Yeah. I would say Bronzong. Bronzong,
Okay.
Preach, brother.
right? I would say Bronzong with Confusion. He's like, number one, he beats the other Confusion users, so he beats Gallade. He beats Jirachi. He also beats Medicham and Torterra, right? You also have Bulldoze now to be able to take down the anti-flyers. So like you have Bastiodon, Probopass, right? And
So what moveset are you running on Bronzong?
I'm running Confusion, Bulldoze, and Psyshock,
Okay, yeah.
right? Psyshock, again, it's just one of the best charge moves for Bronzong in general. I think you're also using Psyshock against Altaria. So, like, overall, it's a great generalist.
Yeah, certainly. I think it has like a lot of appealing matchups in this meta. Obviously, still has to worry about the Mud Boys dealing a lot of damage to them, but it can still hit those confusion damage, especially against Swampert. Like if you ever seen confusion hit against Swampert, it notices that those confusions a lot more than a lot of other Pokemon. So I think Bronzong is definitely a really strong pick. What lines would you run with Bronzong? Like what other two Pokemon would you complement it with? What would you potentially
The
leave?
Beatdown Bell team.
Yeah. What's your beatdown bell team?
Let me pull up my Boulder Cup. I'd probably go. I'd probably go Bronzong, Medicham, Swampert.
Okay. Okay. I like that line. All right. Perfect. So I've seen a couple people float a couple ideas around like potentially running double fighter lines, whether that's I think one of the popular fighter lines is with Lucario, and one of the reasons with Lucario is that it does take neutral damage against Skarmory, and then as well has that and then as well as counter power up punch and that potential nuke of Shadow Ball, which can do a lot to Medicham if shields are down and you're attempting to switch in with Medicham. So I think certainly it's a viable consideration, especially if you want to mix it up and don't want to run the same 3 Pokemon. But I think overall, would you guys recommend that people host Boulder tournaments? Yes, no. Just get
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So many people missed out on Boulder because I know a lot of people came into the game like with Kingdom and Rainbow and things like that, so they missed all the earlier tournaments. And Boulder back then was so I honestly, when I went to my Boulder Cup, I brought one of every Pokemon, thinking that's what you could do, and then I got there and faced 2 Skarmories. I'm just like, what? So I think it's a refreshing thing. I'm gonna love revisiting this. And I think the meta is different, so it feels like it's a new cup, but Medicham is definitely overpowered. I wish there was a little bit more to kind of check him than just,
Yeah, for sure. One Pokemon that's like a hard counter to Gym. Would it
Well, we'll never know what Synchronized does.
Yeah. I'm skeptical.
So I'm
We'll see.
gonna say no. I might be the unpopular opinion here, but I would say no. Don't host a Boulder. I mean, my reasoning behind that is, for the most part, like regionals has Boulder in it. Like regionals, I feel like is strictly just going to be an upgraded Boulder. Boulder, I feel like it's just more restrictive, if that makes sense. Like you have Boulders in regionals, but then there's also more options potentially for people who don't have specific Pokemon that might make or break their chance in a Boulder Cup tournament.
Okay, makes sense. Jake, John, any thoughts?
Yeah. I say go for it. Boulder's where it all began, right? So like this is where everybody fell in love, right? Zionic, Jake, whoever, King, right? Everybody did their Boulder, and that's when everybody just fell with PvP. So it would be good for people to experience at what everybody else has experienced, or kind of just bring a little bit of a memory back. Except for the double Skarmory thing.
Yeah. Relive the memory, but perhaps a little bit better, and share the love and figure out where it all started. And yeah, that's I share the same opinion with Zionic. I also share the sentiments with Jay in terms of like it's a pretty restricted meta and maybe not so complicated of a meta. You can basically run 3 lines and hope that you beat them in the mirror, or that you do some clever switching or whatnot, and there's not really a ton to it in terms of creativity. But I do think a lot of people missed out on Boulder because it was the first, and people didn't really hear too much about it, or might have been shy, or not really into PvP at that particular point in time. So I think this helps them relive and share the memory that the other people had, and share the love as John pointed out. Okay, great. So the next one is prepared by Palomon. Again, I'm terrible at pronouncing names, as if any of you guys watch any of my videos, as you know, I'm awful at, so might be saying that name wrong.
Read a book a week.
Didn't have crazy IGN names. Does anyone want to walk through their thoughts around the Twilight Cup Meta Simplified, as prepared by Ghost Stadium, or their thoughts around?
I'm waiting for the live stream to kick up with
it's also
with
on
the image.
it's also on Discord if you want to.
Oh, okay.
It might be a little easier. You just scroll up.
Oh, okay.
It's like the dark
Triple Scarm.
triple scarm strategy.
Oh, I thought I muted myself. Yeah, Captain Cold said triple Skarmory. Face
think-
palm.
I think this meta is a lot more diverse than Boulder. Like Boulder's very cut and dry. Like you kind of got a triangle basically.
Yeah.
Maybe a square slightly, but this, there's a lot of just like A equals B, B equals C, C equals D, like that kind of thing. This one is definitely a lot more diverse, but still, it's nice to see that the Pokemon that I used back in my tournament are still hyper meta relevant. Because my favorite line was Toxicroak, Venomoth, Skuntank. That was like my favorite thing to go to, and it's what won me my tournament. And it's good to see that they're still relevant. But I also like that we see the fairy users come up and become somewhat relevant, especially to lock down the dark type Pokemon extremely well. And then Haunter is definitely getting some more action. I don't remember anyone talking about Haunter back then, and now it's like Legacy Haunter can definitely do a lot of work.
Yeah.
And then looking at the ranks, one thing that I noticed is that I remember back then Skuntank was like ranked number 1 or number 2 overall, and now it's like 12. But then you got Golbat as number 1 and Tentacruel up there as well. And Tentacruel's definitely interesting because now it has Acid Spray. Before it only had Sludge Wave, Hydro Pump. It didn't have Acid Spray back then. So now it has Acid Spray, which is a huge shield bait possibility because, especially if it's locked in against a Azumarill, it can just farm it down. And then if you pair that with something like Venomoth or something that has hard-hitting fast moves, there's a lot of play with that if you can just Acid Spray a lot of Pokemon down, especially if they don't have a Grass-type Pokemon or... I'm not thinking straight here. If Grass and then let's see. Or the like Haunter or Nidoking and Nidoqueen because of that ground type damage, the earth powers.
Yeah.
Which again brings those guys somewhat relevant. So you can like flex those shiny Nidoking, Nidoqueen because they have earth powers and now they're a lot more relevant. So I think the mix up is really good and it's definitely looking a lot more balanced than earlier in the year where it was very like dominated by like Toxicroak, Skuntank, Alolan Muck. Now like Tyranitar's actually up there. Like I didn't even consider Tyranitar before. Now it's like, oh, that has some key matchups there.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one of the at least reasons why Tyranitar, which is actually pretty interesting, why Tyranitar has come more into play, is that people are very weary, and in fact, almost every infographic at least puts it on the side, or sometimes informs people not to run it at all. Is around Sableye. I think a lot of people liked running Sableye as a switch encounter against Venomoth or Golbat, especially with that power gem, super effective damage. But because so many people are so weary of running Sableye, the good logical counters to Venomoth and Golbat seem to be Tyranitar, even though it's very squishy. Actually, the other day I had a Shadow Ball Haunter. A Shadow Ball hit me from a Haunter. I'm like, I was almost at full health. I was like, this Haunter was like 3 smackdowns away from losing. I was like, I'm gonna survive this. And then I got hit by the Shadow Ball and it almost KO'd me. And I ended up losing, so I learned learned my lesson.
I also like that there's like Frostlass.
Yeah.
I think has definitely got my attention now because looking at the key matchups, it can beat Golbat and Venomoth, and they can also beat Skuntank and Toxicroak. So it's got like great coverage, and then obviously it's Frostlass. It's gonna burn shields or it's gonna hit you really hard.
Yeah.
So I like that as well.
Yeah, someone's asking Frostlass or Alolan Ninetales.
I think I would take Frostlass personally.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I go Frostlass too.
Is there any reason to run Alolan Ninetales, or do you think that because people are running more are more weary of the fairy users and perhaps running more poison or preparing for the fairies that Ninetales is falling out of play, or? Or
I
you
think it's just because of the move set. I think Avalanche, right, hits harder than Ice Beam. It just does.
it's also less energy, right? It's like,
Yeah, yeah. It's just like it's like a more efficient, hard hitting move, which is why it can cover those Pokemon so much better than Alolan Ninetales can. So that's just why I would run it. But that doesn't mean Ninetales isn't a good option as well.
Okay. And thoughts around play around. Do you prefer Skunk Tank? And this is open question to anybody. Skunk Tank or Alolan Muck. What's people's preferred Dark Poison if they are going to choose one?
I am running a Drapion with Bite, and I really am
Drapion,
loving
yeah.
it.
Okay, yeah, and I saw your video. It's just really deletes
Yeah,
Venomoth
for sure.
and a ton of Pokemon. So you think Bite's the way to go, just because of the aggressive fast move damage?
Yeah, Drapion works very well with other hard hitting Pokemon.
Okay, so what lines? And obviously I watched your video, so I already know the answer. But what
Yeah.
lines are you running with Drapion, with Bite?
I run the Moth with Confusion, and I also enjoy running Tentacruel with Acid Spray and Hydro Pump.
Okay, and that's to check potential Zoomerl that could potentially check the bite damage on Drapion.
Yeah, and I also pretty much like anything with Charm also will play pretty well with Drapion.
Okay, all right. And that's a pretty interesting play, and so we'll see how people play out with Bite on Drapion. Any case for Infestation or whatever its other charge? Poison something? Is it Poison Jab or Poison Sting?
I think it's
Poison Sting.
Poison
Don't use
Sting.
it.
Yeah,
Don't
okay.
ever use
Yeah,
poison.
don't use it. It's bad.
Poison stink.
You ready? Poison. Yeah.
Don't do it.
Okay. No play on with Infestation. Do you think Bite's just like the superior for this? Meta?
Well, I think if you want higher pressure with shields, then you might want to run the Infestation because it does charge up those Sludge Bombs, Crunches, or the Aqua-Tails faster. And if you want higher DPS straight through, you will probably play with Bite a little bit.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. Any case for what's the case for running a Charm user or not? Especially since people are still running for the most part Venomoth or Golbat as a check to Toxicroak. Do you need that additional check to Toxicroak? Does it have like additional play? Obviously against some of the dark users. But is there what reasons and not reasons for using Charm?
Well, Charm
Come on,
will
Jake.
obviously. If
Tell 'em
I'm,
about the cheese, Jake.
yeah, Charm hits extremely hard, and it will. If you're running if you're running something like a Flyer user or like a bug like Moth, it can hard check Frostlass pretty well, and it can hard check any Smackdown T-Tars or pretty much a lot of Pokemon that can beat Moth. Running a Charm user will be able to handle that quite well.
All right, perfect. And what case? Okay, we're gonna put Caleb in the hot seat if he's ready.
Hey, what's up?
You ready? Okay, Caleb. Before we get in, you gotta. Everyone said a fun fact about themselves. You gotta say a fun fact about yourself.
Fun fact. I once almost died in Disney World.
You
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
What?
Yeah.
Tell us.
You want me to leave at that? Or you want me to explain
give us
it?
like the 15-second synopsis.
Yeah.
Of it.
So there was a boat in the middle of like a lake in Disney World, and they're shooting off fireworks. I was on the shore, and I looked away for a second. I looked back, and there was like a piece of firework that was like quite sizable, like the size of a quarter, coming at me, and just like never broke off. And I happened to duck right in time, otherwise it would hit me right in the forehead, and it melts through this glass dome light in the ground, and it melts through the light bulb there and starts like being lit on fire too. So me and my friend were like putting out with our like little spray bottles.
How long ago was this?
I was like maybe like 7 years old. Yeah.
Jeez,
Okay.
man.
Jeez.
Those are some quick reflexes for a 7-year-old. Oh wow.
And to think Disney World is where all dreams are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know.
Well, that's quite the story. So,
Yeah.
Okay, we're talking about Twilight, Caleb.
Okay. Awesome.
So making some cases for like charm users, obviously, some checks to Frostlass, checks to Toxicroak. Do we have to worry about the Sludge Bomb, and then checks to Tyranitar and some of the other darks? Which charm user are you favoring out of the three that we have listed there?
I personally like Wigglytuff a lot. I know that in Zero Shields, it tends to lose against the other charm users because they could get to charge move much faster than it could get to Ice Beam or Play Rough. But with the neutral the normal subtyping as well, it resists a lot of the ghost attacks from the ghost attackers in the cup, and I think that's pretty big. And Wigglytuff does beat all the other charm users if it has a shield, just because it could just dish out enough neutral damage through charm and has a little bit more bulk. So for me, that's my personal favorite.
Yeah, Wigglytuff. Any other cases for other charm users that people have been using?
Yeah, I would say I feel like Togekiss is probably better than Clefable in this particular cup, just because Clefable can get off Meteor Mash, but there's a decent amount of like poison typings here or there that will resist it, and so I think having what do you call it, Ancient Power on Togekiss, I think that's a rock move, or even Air Slash, I believe, as this flying move has a little bit better coverage for the rest of the cup.
Yeah, for sure. I definitely really like Togekiss, but I have been stuck in some tricky matchups in the end, like against the Toxicroak, and they Sludge Bomb me and they KO me, but I really like it from its typing, and then as well the ability. Ancient Power is really valuable in this particular cup, just because like people love to run Golbat and Venomoth, and it definitely is a good nuke option, and as well the chance for a boost is always a nice plus.
Yeah, definitely.
And obviously, but it's obviously tough to get one under 1500 CP. You would have to catch one in the wild at probably easiest at a Go Fest, at Chicago Go Fest, or have someone like below level 17 or something like that hatch a Togepi and trade it to you.
Yeah.
Okay. Great. So the final thing I want to talk about is like any of the wild cards. So I've seen some interesting play with Quillfish, and I've seen some discussions with Nidoqueen, and I think Nidoqueen's a little bit different than when Twilight first came out because of Earth Power. Any cases for playing any of the wild cards besides Tentacruel, which we talked about already?
Quillfish, I don't think. Again, Quillfish is like, I feel a sleeper pick. Like, I don't think if people don't sim it, knowing what's going to happen, I don't think they're going to be ready for how much damage it's actually going to be putting out, especially on that lead. It's kind of like quiet damage, if that makes sense. Like, I don't know. It wrecks things if you're definitely not ready for it. Especially like the Azumarill matchup. You know, I've been seeing a lot of people lead Azumarill, and if people lead that Quillfish, you're gonna win that matchup all the way through in all shielding scenarios. So
yeah, and do you recommend running obviously Water Gun, or do you recommend Water Gun, Aqua Tail, and
well, I guess it depends on how you want to play it. Sludge Wave will obviously delete the Azumarill, but if you're a person that wants some different coverage, maybe you want that Ice Beam for like the Venomoth or the Golbat, or maybe you want to go with Acid Spray and just make people shield, or just put out a lowering of the defense and then just keep spraying away with Water Gun. So there's definitely a lot of different moves. I think I might take Sludge Wave just to like one shot the Azumarill, especially if they're not ready, thinking that it's going to be Aqua Tail, or something like that.
Yeah, to shore up that matchup.
Yeah.
Which makes sense. Yeah, I've seen because I hadn't simmed against Quillfish for a long time, I was actually surprised that Toxicroak loses in the two shield matchup, because I was like, oh, I can get Mud Bomb, it goes off pretty quick. But then you realize how squishy Toxicroak is, and how much that neutral water gun damage does versus resisted counter. It can certainly wear you down, and then they end up having energy for another charge move later on. And then as well, you have to be wary with that matchup with Azumarill. And so the final question I want to talk about for this particular meta is around Azumarill. What charge moves do you recommend for Azumarill in this cup?
Okay. I was gonna let other people talk. Right now I'm liking Ice Beam and Play Rough. And that's, you could have the Hydro Pump to do just a lot of heavy neutral damage. The Play Rough I think is gonna be key in circumstances against that Umbreon. And then Ice Beam is just great at putting out shield pressure, gives you that coverage against that Venusaur or whatever grass user they're going to bring in. So I think Ice Beam is definitely the number one, and then the other two would be Hydro Pump or Play Rough, depending on what you want to cover. But I think I would bring Play Rough to cover those Dark-type Pokemon.
Okay, so Play Rough for, I guess either any of the dark not poisons. I guess it would deal. Both Hydro Pump and Play Rough would deal neutral damage to the dark poisons. Any other movesets people have been considering?
I would say the other moveset you can actually do would be Play Rough, Hydro Pump.
Okay. And what's the case for that?
Well, like Zionic said, you'd be using Play Rough for the matchups against Umbreon, but also against the Mirror.
Yeah.
And of course, you have Hydro Pump just for those secret hits against Skunk Tank and those other poison users, and pretty much it. I think those are the two real matchups. I don't really think you'd be going Ice Beam, Hydro Pump.
That's actually the moveset I would advocate for. Is Ice Beam, Hydro Pump, and give up the Mirror. It's tough for me. I love at least coming out even or winning the Mirror, especially for a Pokemon that's so popular. But that Hydro Pump damage can certainly, in my opinion, bail you out of some pretty bad matchups, against Skunk Tank, against Monk, against Drapion. Oh, maybe not Drapion, because if you do have to worry about the sludge bomb, and then as well it deals the highest neutral or resisted damage out of any of the moves. So if you land 2 Hydro Pumps against a Tentacruel, it does a lot of damage and makes the Tentacruel think about how much it actually wants to farm up against the Azumarill. Well, that's at least what my case, but and as well Ice Beam. I think Ice Beam is super critical to deal with Venomoth and for Golbat. It's those are going to be very popular Pokemon, and it's tough to not consider Ice Beam for that particular matchup. But certainly you can get around by landing a Hydro Pump against Venomoth or Golbat, or potentially baiting them with a Play Rough. Obviously, Play Rough would be resisted damage. So, any other final thoughts around Twilight? Would you recommend that people run Twilight for their cup?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. Okay. Any cases for not? I don't think there will be very many cases. I think it's a lot of people's preferred meta. I think, at least when I look back, when I think about all the cups, like Twilight certainly has a special memory for me, just because I saw it's the first time I saw like the meta actually change throughout the month, and obviously when they dropped like the changes to Shadowclaw and they dropped the changes to Confusion like the day before Twilight was released, like it certainly shook up the meta and changed it up. And I saw big differences in the team that I ran in on day one. Like I ran, like I think I did a Twilight Cup like the second day, and then the one I ran at the end of the month was totally different. So I really appreciated how much it changed and how movesets had changed, and even looking back, it still holds up really well as a really balanced cup. All right, perfect. Okay, why don't we go to Tempest?
Hey, before we dive into Tempest, do you want to tell them about the likes and all that?
Yeah. So if we get to 200 likes, we're gonna be featuring some battles with Call Me Jake, and he's gonna be battling everyone else on this live stream in the cup of your choice. So if you want to torture Jake, with some nightmare, right? Or if or you want to bring a sparkle to his eye with Twilight, right? Or you want to put him in between a rock in a hard place, then you can bring the boulder action. So, anyways, enough of those puns, and let's just so 200 likes, and we'll get some battle action after we discuss all these metas. All right, so Jake, you're up.
Alrighty. So you have the Tempest graphic up, right?
Yep.
Alright. So for Tempest Cup, it is pretty. It's pretty simple to understand, I'd say. So over here you have Lapras along with the other Pokemon with hard-hitting moves like Avalanche on Frostlass. You have Piloswine, you have Celio and Glalie. All these Pokemon will be able to have pretty even matchups against the water grounds. Like you got things like Quagsire, Swampy, Marshtomp, Whiscash. Obviously, Swampert is probably the highest one on that list now because of the Hydro Cannon. And then, as you guys know, the ice types will dominate Altaria in the meta. And Altaria is one of the main counters to Tropius and Abomasnow, the main grass type users in this meta. They are part flying grass and part ice grass, and they have that hard-hitting damage with Razor Leaf. And I'd say for the most part, their matchups against Lapras with Ice Shard and Ice Beam is pretty even. It's all dependent upon the health and whether or not that Lapras has the extra charge move and the energy. And then the grass types have that amazing coverage over the water ground boys. Obviously, those grass moves will be 2 times super effective to them. And then as we look at the water ground, we know they can. We know that they are able to dominate the electrics like Lantern, Raichu, and all the other ones here in this cup. With that hard hitting, whether it be the Earthquake, and then for the electrics, we know that they will be able to dominate things like Charizard and Skarmory, which are actually the hardest counters to the grass users. So I would highly use them on your team, along with potentially the Tropius and Abomasnow. Tropius and something like Lantern pair very well together. And then the Electrics can also beat the Water Gun version of Lapras, which a lot of people will probably run over Ice Shard. It's all depending on how they want to run it in their team comp. Water Gun obviously will be doing a lot more damage to things like Skarm and Charizard, whereas running Lapras with Ice Shard will charge those charge moves faster. And the main drawback to Ice Shard is that it won't be doing as much damage to things like Skarm and Charizard. So that's why you'd want to run a Water Gun Lapras. And then you have Altaria, which again can beat the grass types. It's the grass types are pretty much gone when they face Altaria, because it is 2 times resisting grass moves.
Yeah, that's correct.
The dragon and flying typing. And Altaria also does very, very well against Charizard and has pretty even matchups against Skarmory. I believe without shields, I believe Skarmory wins that matchup. And I think it's also a draw in 2 shields. It could be swayed because of IVs. And then Altaria, I believe, will win in 1 shield, if I recall correctly. And then we have Steelix, which can also be a softer counter to Altaria and a soft counter to Skarmory. And it will get wrecked by Charizard for the most part.
Steelix is good.
Steelix is good. Yeah, and then last but not least, we have Togekiss, which is a pretty solid addition. I haven't really checked out the matchups against Tempest Cup meta with Togekiss. I'm expecting it can beat things like Tropius, Abomasnow, Altaria, because of that charm doing super effective to Altaria. I presume it loses to the Electrics as well as the Ice.
Yeah, because of that super effective damage.
Yeah.
Great.
And that's pretty much it.
Thank you, Jake, for that meta walkthrough. So I think there's a lot of really interesting discussion points. Some of them you brought up. So like, why don't we start with one that you brought up? Ice Shard or Water Gun? What does each person on this stream prefer? You guys let us know in the chat as well. Which one do you prefer, Water Gun or Ice Shard in this meta? So any volunteers?
I'll go. For the most part, wait, am I off mute? Yes, I am. Okay.
Yes.
For the most part, I mean, before we had the Lapras Raid Day and everybody and their dog had access to Ice Shard, Ice Beam, Lapras, when I had my Tempest Cup, I was thoroughly tilted by obviously Tropius, but also by people who actually had an Ice Shard Lapras. It always gave me problems. So, and I feel like that's because, I mean, even though it's not going to deal as much damage as quickly to something like, let's say, maybe Quag, for example, or to Charizard, obviously, you lose that quick and that fast Water Gun damage that gives you, that deletion potential. But with how quickly it can get to Surf and it can get to Ice Beam, like that's the deletion potential right there. Like Charizard does not want to take a Surf to the face. That's not going to work for Charizard.
All right, perfect. Yeah, that makes sense. Charizard, weak to it and very squishy. Any advocates for Water Gun? No, I think winning the mirror is one, and then as well if you go up against Magneton, at least you're doing neutral damage to it and putting a lot of pressure on it. But obviously you're not getting to those charge move as quickly. And I think one moveset, which House Stark 93 brought up and supported by D Master
Skull
Lance.
Bash?
I don't know. It's actually interesting. Again,
Water gun Skull Bash Lapras?
No. He's saying that the preferred moveset is Ice Shard, Surf, Dragon Pulse. And
Dragon Pulse.
What are people's thoughts around that? I think the main reason for having Dragon Pulse is for the mirror matchup.
Yeah,
and then another reason is to land Dragon Pulse on a Lantern, and then end up having like a positive matchup against Lantern is a surprising matchup against Lantern as well, because most people won't shield if they're a Lantern, because like it's going to be resisted Ice Beam,
the Dragon Pulse. Yep.
or it could be neutral Skull Bash too. So don't sleep on that Skull Bash, right?
Dragon Pulse. It kind of makes me salty because I have a Dragon Pulse Lapras, but it has Water Gun. If I had an Ice Shard Surf Dragon Pulse Lapras, that'd be amazing. That's like the dark horse. If I can find somebody to trade me that, I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win the Mirror Cup.
So any thoughts around that particular matchup using Dragon Pulse?
I like it. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's fine. Like you said, it doesn't allow to get farmed as far by Lantern. And then having Ice Shard already helps it counter Altaria even without the Ice Beam. So sometimes you could just even finish off with a Surf if you already do enough damage with the Ice Shard. And worst case scenario, you could use a Dragon Pulse too, and like no shields. And then obviously win the mirror. So one quick short story is I got access to a Dragon Pulse Lapras recently, and I tried to teach it Surf, and I spent 13 charge TMs, and I currently have Skull Bash and Dragon Pulse.
GG's, dude.
I should have screen recorded just to like send a potential like support ticket and complaint tonight to potentially change the TM system. I spent all of my TMs too, because I was like so stubborn towards the end. I was like, I gotta get it eventually, and it just went to like Blizzard and Hydro Pump and Skull Bash the whole time.
Yep.
So. Yeah. But but other than that, I am advocate for Dragon Pulse Surf if you can get to the Surf with a TM.
Okay. I would say a lot of people are bashing on Skull Bash, but can win you the one shield against Lantern. So I'm just saying Skull Bash is like the poor man's Dragon Pulse. So I wouldn't say necessarily don't rule it out. Quite. It is a ton of energy. You're almost super obvious trying to go for the Skull Bash if you're trying to charge up to it, but you can certainly
you get defensive boost, so it's not all wasted. I will say though, if you run Skull Bash, you gotta have Ice Shard, because I don't think you survive long enough.
Oh yeah. No. Yeah.
No, I agree. Okay. Okay. So going back to the ice types. So it's like a lot of people seems like most people prefer Ice Shard, and I think actually Ice. Someone could correct me if I'm wrong. I think Ice Shard and Water Gun actually have the same damage per turn. I think they're both 3, and then I think Ice Shard just strictly has more energy. Could be
better
wrong.
Energy gain.
Yeah, I think it's like 3 versus 3.33 or something like that.
Let's see,
or 1, whatever it is, right? Is there a case for any other ice user besides Lapras? So we have like 4 other ones listed out, and
I mean, I know people really love that Body Slam Celio. Just putting a lot of pressure, especially if you're in a tournament where there's not a lot of experienced players. I think getting hit with so many charge moves back to back to back will put pressure to use shields that you probably shouldn't be using. So there's a case for that. With the Body Slam Celio, and I know you loved it when Tempest first came out, King. You loved that Body Slam Celio.
I use it so much. does a lot of really good neutral damage. I think it is checked a little bit more nowadays, because I think people are a little bit more informed on how to better use their shields. But I think one of the positives of using a Body Slam Celio, especially against an Ice Shard Lapras, is maybe not one with Dragon Pulse, is that you can actually beat a Lapras. And I've ended like a couple tournament matches where it's Celio versus Lapras, and then just Body Slam spam, and it does a ton of damage. But I do think it's like fallen a little out of the meta in favor of Lapras. As the meta's gone changed and evolved and people have gotten better. But I really love using Celio back in the day. Any
What's-
other? Go ahead.
I was gonna say one thing we haven't really talked about is what about the Raging Taz double flyer?
Ooh, do you think what?
What if you pair Skarmory and Altaria with a Quagsire? Like, do Quagsire lead with Skarmory and Altaria?
Yeah, I think it's certainly. I think there's a lot of really interesting strategies. I think the double flyer is one. I know Valerash on. I think he was streaming for Go Stadium, and everyone's like, "Oh, go battle Valerash." And I'm like, "Oh man, I don't want to be humiliated." They're like, "No, don't worry, you'll put up a fine fight." Then I think he had like 2 shields left and 2 Pokemon left, so. He used a double electric strategy and completely humiliated me because I used the double flyer strategy and basically had no chance. So what are you guys' thoughts around that proposed double flyer strategy?
Ice Shard Lapras.
You think Ice Shard Lapras is enough of a check for at least to scare off Altaria, then has a strong neutral matchup against Skarmory?
Yeah, 'cause, I mean the surf damage, the neutral Ice Shard and the surf damage can threaten Skarm plenty enough, and then Ice Shard can just potentially can obliterate Altaria. I mean, they both can, it's kind of even if it's a double flyer, but if you have the Ice Shard Lapras and maybe even like, let's say, a Magneton sitting next to it, I mean, I think that's probably going to be a less common team composition than like a double flyer would be. But I just feel like, especially because Ice Shard Lapras is going to be very, very common, that's the only reason I would really question it.
Okay. Yeah. And yeah, perhaps like that as some pressure. Okay, makes sense. How about for the double electric strategy? I think the play is like Magneton lead with like, I forget what was in the middle, and then Lantern in the back. I'm sure Valerash can comment on what his actual team composition. I don't actually think I saw the third Pokemon, so can't really fully comment on the team comp. So any thoughts on the relevancy of or usefulness of bringing double electric? Did you guys see that in any of your tournaments or any videos that you thought were useful?
I haven't seen it much, but I could see how it would be really useful just because unless you're really running like a Whiscash, even Quagsire is probably a little bit harder to deal with just because getting to Earthquake just takes a little bit longer. I personally didn't see it the first time around. I haven't done a lot of Tempest this time, but I mean, I think it could be really strong, especially if you have double Legacy Magneton.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I wouldn't have even thought about that, to be honest. Yeah, the first time around.
For sure. I think I saw somebody that doubling up of Pokemon always like at least plays mind games with me. When I see it, I'm like, oh man, am I gonna have to double check this one, or is it bench pressure? Then I go through. I think in one of my Tempest Cup tournaments, someone had double flyer and double Razor Leaf user on the same. I was like, oh wow, how do I, which is interesting because then if you try to check with electrics on the double flyer, you might end up facing a double Razor Leaf, right? And if you try to go vice versa, then you might be in a little bit of trouble or issue.
Double Razor Leaf, that's the stuff of nightmares.
Yeah, just like have no you don't use any of your shields, just get deleted with. Okay, so we talked about ice. We talked about considerations for Mud Boys. Is it only Swampert, or are there cases for the other Mud Boys?
I think there's definitely cases for the other Mud Boys. I mean, obviously, it makes sense. There's so much hype still. There still is around Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, Swampert. Maybe Muddy Water, if you like to be cheesy like me. But, I mean, Whiscash, for example, the Mud Bomb spam, especially if they're going to have that, cheesy double electric lineup, the Mud Bomb's real. The Mud Bomb is why Wishakash. I guess part of the reason why Wishakash is Wishakash in the first place, right? But also having Blizzard, which can be super clutch if you're getting Razor Leaf to death. Wishakash is definitely still considerable. I think Marshtomp is going to be less considerable for the most part, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't see any reason why I would choose a Marshtomp. Like, I get why I would choose a Quag or why I would choose a Wishakash and why I would choose a Swampert, but Marshtomp, I'm not feeling him.
Yeah. I think like Quagsire certainly has some play, especially against Lapras. That Stone Edge will do a ton of damage to any of those ice types, which I think is still like relevant play. And then for Marshtomp, no, not Marshtomp. I always mix this up. For Swampert, is everyone running, or do you think the moveset to go? The only moveset to consider is Hydro Cannon Earthquake, or are there other combinations?
Surf and Muddy Water King.
Surf and Muddy Water.
Oh god.
Maybe not surf. Maybe not surf.
No, maybe it's time for me to go get another coffee. I will be right back.
No problem. You're feeling a little muddy watered, right?
Yeah.
So get some water, or some coffee. Any other consideration?
Yeah, I just can't see Sludge Wave being that useful. It doesn't one-shot a Tropius, so you might at most like weaken it down, and then you can't farm as much with Skarmory or Altaria afterward. So you might as well carry the Earthquake, in my opinion, just to deal with Lanturns and, really, I guess it's Lanturns and maybe Magneton. Although I feel like Hydro Cannon can do quite a bit of damage on that already. Yeah, I haven't tested out Muddy Water myself, but I'm going to go on a hunch and say that's not as useful as Earthquake.
Yeah, it's a pretty terrible move, but if you want to go for that like one additional turn shield bait, which might matter in some cases, then I think certainly it can be considered. And then Earthquake, to be honest, there's been a lot of situations where even though Hydro Cannon is more energy efficient, Earthquake still deals more damage in general. So there's been some like really late game scenarios where I didn't do the Earthquake, or I did do the Earthquake and ended up saving me in the matchup, especially in some of the mirror matchups where your energies are misaligned. I think Earthquake can definitely, or your shields are misaligned and you have like an energy advantage. It might end up saving you in the end. Okay, and then for the electrics as a whole, which ones do you feel that people should consider?
Magneton.
You see Magneton?
I agree with that.
Okay, Magneton.
With Thundershock.
Yeah,
Yes.
obviously that. And for Thundershock, it's typing, access to Magnet Bomb will deal a good amount of neutral damage where necessary. Any other water type, electric types that people should consider?
I used Cancel Raichu the first time around.
Okay.
With Break and Wild Charge. I did okay with it. The main reason is because the Brick Break helps counter off any Magnetons, and then and it could do decent against Lapras, but mainly also it destroys a Alolan Sand Slash, where the Brick Break is 4 times weak to fighting, even though Brick Break isn't a great move. And then the Wild Charge could one-shot Lapras, and obviously do a lot of damage to Skarmory. But obviously having Brick Break, you kind of lose a little bit of bait potential over Thunder Punch, Wild Charge, and also like as anyone that's ever played Kanto Raichu, it's very glassy. So you definitely need to invest some shields from time to time, and you definitely have to play around with it and definitely get used to it. But I did decent in my local with it. I don't know how it's going to fare this time around, especially with the meta shifting a little bit too.
Any thoughts on Alolan Raichu, especially with Grass Knot?
Yeah, that's come up a couple times in chat now. Actually, is
potentially a check to the Mud Boys, which I think was the main reason why it gave it Grass Knot.
I think Valor Ash mentioned in the chat too that he he potentially use a Alolan Raichu against you when you mentioned that he went against double electric. And I haven't really tried it yet, but I can see how it has pretty decent coverage, especially with the Mud Boys there, and then also having electric options too.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's very viable. Okay, and then I think a lot of people like Lantern as well. I was hoping someone would bring it up so I could segue to my next thing, but no one's thrown me the assist, so that's perfectly fine.
Lantern.
Okay, okay. I'm glad you brought it up. So,
Charge beam.
For I was gonna ask water gun or charge beam, because I think there are some changes in the meta there to at least consider. I think a lot of people prefer charge beam. Back when Tempest was first around, is there any relevancy to water gun?
So because Lantern's tanky, the water gun spam, I feel like this kind of goes back to the Lapras with Ice Shard versus water gun, right? When Jake was initially going over his meta graphic, the matchup with Charizard and dealing, that water gun damage. The thing I think about though is with Lantern versus any of the Mud Boys, right? If you're using Charge Beam, you're doing nothing. It's a joke. But if you have water gun, and depending on shields and whatnot, then it could be a different story.
Yeah, I certainly think the water gun damage can matter against some of the Mud Boys, especially especially against Swampert can deal a lot of cumulative damage. But obviously, people like getting to the charge move quickly and spamming out the damage, which I think is relevant as well. All right. So, John, I know one of your favorite Pokemon is that flying red dragon, Charizard. Do you think people should consider Charizard for this cup? Because I don't think it was so popular the first time it came around. Are there any changes or considerations, or do you think it's become less relevant, more relevant? Should people play?
I think it's become less relevant just because of the Mud Boys and of course Swampert. Swampert could just completely delete him. Then he's also flying, so he's also weak to the electric types as well. Loses to Altaria, Lapras. You're losing a lot.
Yeah, and I think if Tropius gets to Air Releases, will still, even though Air Releases is a terrible move, will still do a lot of damage to Charizard, unfortunately. So
Exactly.
But Blast Burn still does a ton of damage, right? You land a Blast Burn on a Lapras, it's gonna be gonna do a lot of damage to that Lapras. So especially if they're carrying not so much that it's doing more damage because it's carrying Ice Shard, but it will have to think about firing off that Surf a little bit sooner and not farming as much when it lands that Blast Burn. And then who wants to tackle, since Gemma is not here, because I think he wanted to avoid this topic, talking about Steelix. What's Steelix's role? Would you bring it in your team of 6?
Steelix is good.
Probably not.
Probably, yeah.
What?
You think it has less relevance now than before? Or do you think it had no relevance back then as well?
I mean, I felt like it was okay back then, but for me, I would just rather have, say, a Skarmory on my team instead.
Okay.
I would still bring Steelix. I mean, number one, Steelix is good. But more importantly, if I see a team that's trying to run that double electric cheese, I'm not falling prey to that.
Yeah, especially if they're perhaps running a Charge Beam Lantern. They get to the Hydro Pump sooner, but certainly doing a little bit less damage on their fast moves. All right, perfect. So overall thoughts on Tempest? Would you recommend people hosting a Tempest Cup tournament?
Yeah, it's still kind of the same. It's got a little extra flair to it, and it was a decent tournament. I would definitely like a second shot at it because this was a tournament I didn't do too hot in. But
I echo that. Yep.
yeah. So I would love a second shot, and I think it's got a good balance, a good mix of strong Pokemon that you already have or you should work to be getting for Great League PvP in general. So yeah.
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of meta relevant mons in this cup for sure. Any other thoughts? Yes, no. You wouldn't run it.
My thoughts on Tempest at this point overall is it can help. I don't want to say Tempest is too basic because, there are some considerable wild cards, but I feel like for the most part, it is a pretty easy to understand meta. So, as far as people who may be even brand new, it's probably, I feel like it's a good place to start. I'd rather start there than try and start in something like Nightmare Cup, for example, if I'm brand new to the scene.
Okay. All right. Perfect. That makes total sense. All right. Okay. Now that we're done with Tempest, why don't we move on to Kingdom Cup. So, John, I know you made this infographic, and Kingdom Cup. Why don't you walk us through the meta?
Alrighty, so if you guys remember correctly, Kingdom Cup was the introduction to that rock, paper, scissors meta. It was really based on the ball core, basically Bastiodon, Altaria, Lucario, Lapras. Was basically the core of the meta. Lucario takes down. Again, we had a lot of different discussions on why we'd call it the rock, paper, scissors. Rock, paper, scissors basically means that the lead is very, very important in the kingdom. If you led Lapras, other guy led Lucario, it was a very hard match to kind of get out of. They call it rock, paper, scissors because basically scissors was Lucario, rock was the Flyers, and then paper was basically the anti-Flyers.
Which is ironic, here we have Bastiodon's a rock type, so
right.
He's talking about in reference that scissors.
Yeah. And I understand the irony of it. So that's
all. But then we also have Charizard, who hard counters Lucario, and then we have a little Marowak, and of course Blaziken. Now Blaziken with the new sets, Blaze Kick and Blast Burn. He now is able to get a little bit more spammy. He's able to do a little bit of shield baiting. But before he was more just counter, and hope and pray for a Brave Bird. And then we also have Alolan Marowak, who worked really well with Steelix. I find that those two guys synergize very well together. And then of course we have Bronzong, the wild card pick. That he was like more of a generalist. Like I would say he was okay, but now that he got his new movesets with Psyshock, Bulldoze, he is a lot better now as a generalist. And then of course we have Kingdra and Polion, right? Just hard hitting fast moves. And then we have Altaria. This is the flying type with a dragon.
All right, perfect. So how much do we think that the new moves to Blaziken shakes at the core of the ball core?
I really, really, really wish Vange was here for this.
Okay, go ahead.
Spicy chicken. This spicy meatball chicken got spicier. Somebody dumped the hot sauce all over the spicy chicken. Blaze Kick. I mean, I've probably thought about it too much, but I've thought a lot about Blaziken. I want to use counter because if they come in with Lucario, right, flashbacks to the Kingdom Cup meta, like you can delete it and the Lucario threat can be gone. But with how much steel there is, like, do I just want to use it as an all fire chicken or a firefighting chicken? I mean, because that, like he was saying, that potential with the spam and Blaze Kick and Blast Burn is just Blast Burn. I think it really, really shakes up the meta.
Like in what sense? Do you think just because with Blaze Kick and Blast Burn, it shores up matchups more, or you think it burns more shields, or in what fabric of the ball core or outside the ball core you think it takes things out?
Outside the ball court. So he can win against Lucario. That's obvious. If you're running counter, he can win against Lapras. With the Blaze Kick, and counter probably is what I'm feeling right now is counter, Blaze Kick, and Blast Burn. Maybe Brave Bird, probably just Blast Burn though. He can destroy all the steel as well too.
Yeah, so thoughts on the 2 moves that Blaziken should have?
For
Two
the
charge moves?
out there,
The 2 charge moves.
for the one person out there that has a Stone Edge Blaziken under 1500,
Yeah.
use Stone Edge.
I promise
It's
that
habit.
if I ever fought someone with a Stone Edge, if I ever saw a Stone Edge coming out of a Blaziken, I would just hit the quit, insta quit,
Insta
and be like,
forfeit.
pull up the Silpharina website, boom, you won.
Yeah. I have a friend that has one, but it's not over. It's over 1500, unfortunately, and he's not going to trade it to me.
Yeah, thoughts around besides Stone Edge. Stone Edge would be pretty awesome.
I'd probably go with Blaze Kick, Blast Burn.
Okay. Yeah.
The reason why is because Blast Burn, I think it only does a little bit less damage than Brave Bird does against like an Altaria. Which I think was one of the main reasons why people used Brave Bird to go up against the Altaria. And I think it does like five less damage. And then of course we have Blaze Kick that just does the shield baiting and does some decent damage as well. And just overall, I find those 2 moves are one of the better moves to use because now you have your shield baiter and then Blast Burn just hits like a truck, right?
So I actually looked this up the other day. So Blast Burn is actually it's slightly more energy efficient than Brave Bird
Right.
against Altaria. So
Okay.
even though it does neutral damage and Blast Burn is resisted, Blast Burn is such a great move plus stab. It does actually slightly more slightly more energy efficient, not more damage. Obviously, it does like less damage because the lower energy costs.
Right, but more energy efficient though.
And then enough energy so that you could potentially get to a Blaze Kick later on if needed, one turn earlier. So Blast Burn, I think because they both get to. Am I thinking it's correctly? No. Anyway, it gets to the second charge move one turn earlier, which might not mattering.
I mean, something to consider with Fire Chicken too is just how squishy he is. That energy efficiency is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. And then how about the beatdown bell? I see its name has got upgraded from the Freedom
Bell.
the Freedom
I
Bell,
remember
right? So it's it all of a sudden got Psyshock and Bulldoze, and no longer about freedom, but all about beatdowns. So I think Valor Ash was asking like, what matchups does it give you that it didn't have before? Or better matchups.
Better matchups against the like Bastiodon, Probopass, Steelix with Bulldoze now.
Mhm.
And I think he also has better matchups now because of Psyshock doing more against Altaria. And then, of
Yeah.
course, he beats down the Fire Chicken, right?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's like one of the main things is that it shore up its matchup against Altaria better with Psyshock, and made it a little bit more consistent as opposed to hoping that you would land the Flash Cannon against Altaria. And then obviously Bulldoze, good for the mirror match, can deal super effective damage against if you get locked in with Alolan Marowak. At least you have the potential of landing some super effective damage against it, even though like Bulldoze is a lot of energy to get to.
One pretty big one is it now beats Bastiodon with Bulldoze.
Mhm.
If it has Bulldoze and Side Shock, it beats Bastiodon in all shield situations. I think in the one shield it needs to bait with Side Shock, and then if it's only using Bulldoze with no bait, it beats Bastiodon in 0 and 2 shields. So I think that's a huge upgrade
Absolutely.
to Bronze in that respect.
Absolutely.
And looking at the numbers as well. Previously, if you just give Bronzong the Confusion Flash Cannon Heavy Slam from before, against this meta has a 47% win rate in the one shield scenario, and then if you give it the new moves of Side Shock Bulldoze, it goes up to 61. So
This is a huge upgrade.
it's huge.
So many more victories.
You know,
yeah.
you got some really nice key matchups that it definitely gains, but then like overall, it just kind of upgrades itself to be able to handle.
I find when Bronzong first came out, he was more of just a straight generalist. But now he actually has this he's a generalist, but also has now more of a key matchup against specific Pokemon.
Mhm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Can certainly do a lot of damage too, and shore up flip some matchups, which I think is super critical. Like you go from like having really shaky wins to really solid wins, or some like like slight losses to wins is a really big consideration. So, and the Psyshock being less energy than Heavy Slam, and Bulldoze having a lot of really good utility in this meta because of the fire and steel and rock types. What makes it really useful. Okay, and then how about within the B part of the ball core? So we have some one Pokemon that was already there before Steelix, and then we have another individual with a very large nose and a large mustache. Is there any relevancy in bringing Steelix or Probopass instead of Bastiodon, or with Bastiodon in a team of 6?
I think for Steelix, the usage might go up just because of Bronzong itself, because with Crunch now, it's the only steel type out of the 3 that consistently can beat Bronzong, versus the other 2 would actually struggle quite a bit. Probopass, I mean, it beats Bastiodon, but it gets walled off pretty hard by Steelix, and I feel like there's just more that Probopass counters in this meta versus there's more that Bastiodon counters in this meta versus Probopass, but obviously not everyone can afford a Bastiodon, so it's a decent replacement.
So you think in this particular meta, Steelix gone up in value, Probopass isn't the same substitute as it would be in potentially other metas, or if there were other meta defining Pokemon, then doesn't necessarily have the same play.
Yeah, I would almost run Steelix over Probopass if I didn't have access to Bastiodon. But I mean, that's just me. But I think it does better overall, I think, in this meta.
Okay, and then for the fire types, obviously, Jay Devon's all about that spicy chicken. Is there any room in that box for any other fire types?
Yes, there definitely is. I mean, Charizard still does have Blast Burn, right? But he also has Dragon Claw, which can help against an Altaria matchup for the most part. I feel like Charizard would still be pretty common if we see a lot of Kingdom Cup 2.0 tournaments, which honestly, I don't know if we will or not. Kingdom doesn't seem to be that popular from what I've seen and I've heard, at least. But Marowak, obviously. Resisting the counter damage, being able to deal the super effective. I mean, Bone Club is bad, but being able to deal that super effective pressure, I guess, that shield pressure it can have against the Steelix and the Probopass, as well as the Bastiodon, but also considerable against a Bronzong matchup. Alolan Marowak, it was already so common and so good before. I think it might end up being more of a staple than it ever was before.
Yeah, I think Twastel brought this up in the chat. I think Alolan Marowak its stock has gone up partly because of Bronzon. It beats Bronzon in all shields, even with its upgraded moveset, and then as well it walls off Blaziken very well. So I think it's definitely has some upgraded stock in terms of its viability in the meta. Okay. Any of the other wild cards or honorable mentions worth running? Flygon, Kingdra, Empoleon.
Did anyone run what do you call it? Sunny Cast Form in their kingdom? I know it beats Charizard, and it's decent, but I personally haven't used it, so I'm just curious if anyone has that success, especially with Bronzon.
Yeah, I think Trainer Tips ran it in Singapore.
Oh yeah, I saw that video, and even you didn't do well with it.
Yeah. I thought, like, man, this is gonna be okay. No, it was awful. It was awful.
Yeah. Okay, good to know.
Okay, and overall thoughts around Kingdom Cup. Would you recommend that people run Kingdom Cup? Is it interesting enough meta?
No.
Probably not.
No, I would say no. Like,
I think
I liked having Lucario beat down everybody, but like it was fun, but it's not. It's too specific.
I think if a team or if a community is looking to go back for one tournament, I don't think Kingdom will be at the top of the list. But if people haven't done it, obviously it's fun to do tournaments that you haven't done. But out of all of them, I don't think I would take Kingdom if I had to choose one tournament. So.
Yeah, for sure. I think one thing I appreciate about Kingdom, even though it's probably my least favorite cup, is like really these comeback like nuke moves that perhaps I didn't really see as much in the previous cups where I wasn't as knowledgeable. Like landing a Shadow Ball on a Charizard, like really swings the match, right? Or landing the Shadow Ball on a Alolan Marowak, it can really swing the match, or landing a Shadow Ball from Alolan Marowak and to these other Pokemon that are not suspecting, or Blast Burn on Lapras. Really was like the first time that I experienced like wow, like this is something that I can do. And eventually people caught on very quickly, but for that small period of time, it was the first time where I'm like, you take the big risks and you force people to think about whether or not you're actually gonna go for this huge risk, and then potentially drawing in shield baits and whatnot, and playing out that matchup, Lucario versus Altaria. If you gamble correctly, you might actually come out on top in that matchup, then have like a beefed up Lucario, which was their only counter Altaria in that lineup. So, anyways, thank you everyone for that discussion. Now we're gonna move on to Season 1 regionals. So we're going to turn it over to our good friend, Call Me Jake.
Hey again, everyone, in the stream. So for regionals, there's a lot to go over, but I'm going to try to do this as quick as possible. So on the left, we have the flex picks. You guys can probably see how you guys are able to use those. Some really awesome flex picks like Haunter, Frostlass, Gallade for sure is one of them. And then we have the Charm users, of course. And then I forget who ran that fish over there at the bottom.
Oh, Matsor.
Yeah, okay, yeah, it was Matsor. That's what I thought.
Okay.
So yeah, we have a lot to go over. But anyways, we have the flyers. Top left, we got things like Lugia. That Caleb Peng ran, and he made an awesome video about that. We have Noctowl, Altaria, and Skarmory. And this group is mainly the group that can hard counter the grass users like Victory Bell, Venusaur, and Tropius, who have a role in the meta, just not as it's not that important of a role, I would say, other than countering the water and ground users like Swampert, Quag, Lantern, Whiscash, and Azumarill. And as you guys can see here, I have these stars, and basically these stars, if they have a red outline, it means it's a loss against the exact box that is the color of the star. So, for example, in this grass group, we have a star that is purple, and that means most of these grass types will lose against the what is it? The Umbreon, Alola Marowak, and Sableye group. And as well, they also lose to the other star box, which is things like Bastiodon, Probo, and the other rock, ground, and steel types. The only grass user that can really put up a solid fight against those is going to be Venusaur with that crazy Frenzy Plant shield pressure. And then we have the fighters to talk about that are mainly things like Toxicroak, Lucario, and Medicham.
Lucario.
Lucario. I love it. But yeah, these fighters can actually handle the grass users quite well because, for one, Lucario and Toxicroak are resisting the grass moves, and they are both putting out some really solid damage because Lucario has that high attack spread, or high attack weighted stats. And then for things like Medicham, since it has access to Ice Punch, it can put up a really great fight against the grass users. And then the fighters can also pretty much win against the water types, except for the Azumarill, because it does have that Play Rough and Hydro Pump, which in my opinion is the moveset you want to run for regionals. You want the Play Rough because of the mirror, and you want the Hydro Pump for that just
Scarm.
solid damage against things like Scarm, and Azumarill is capable of winning a few of the matchups against the rock, steel, grounds, if you get that shield bait down. So, and then for the rest of the fighters, they can it's pretty even against things like Jirachi and Bronzong, except for Toxicroak. Obviously, Toxicroak will get like, what is it, like, how many hits from a confusion will
Deleted.
Toxicroak die in? Yeah,
Depending
like
on
three-
confusion, like three
Yeah.
or four, depending on the
3 or
confusion.
4 usually. Yep. And then because Lucario isn't taking super effective, I believe, it's not taking super effective, so it can put up a really solid fight against these Jirachis and Bronzongs you may see. And then obviously,
Can I interrupt something real quick?
go ahead.
One thing, J-Farm is transformed into a different human being. I don't know if anyone's noticed that.
I am the better form of J-Farm.
I thought he just evolved. That's all.
Upgrade.
Um,
Just like
and then-
Bronzong.
and then secondly, I'm sorry I have to head out, guys. I gotta get going to work.
Okay, no
Um,
problem. Thanks,
so-
Dominic, for joining. Have fun at
So you
work.
guys all have-
Yeah, I will. Have a good night, guys. Take care.
Battle Park
Have a good one then.
Love.
Right, take it. All right.
You got Scrub Lord Dustin in the house. Okay, but yeah. Anyways, So obviously these fighters, as you guys probably would know already, can dominate the Bastiodon, Probopass. They are 2 times weak to fighting moves. And And pretty much like anything else in that group up there in the top right will get hands down wrecked by the fighters. And then in the bottom right here, we have the water ground, as well as the lantern with the electric moves, and then Azumarill, part fairy. You guys know that, I'm sure. This group will have very good matchups against the rock steels and the Steelix, that is ground and steel. It can win those matchups very well, and it will also be able to handle Jirachi and Bronzong very easily. And then for Azumarill, it actually will get handled by the electric Pokemon Pokemon that have access to the electric moves. So, for example, Probo and like any other Pokemon with T-Bolt and Spark will be able to handle Azumarill, and Azumarill highly relies on a shield bait if it wants to win those matchups. And you have to land the Hydro Pump. So against all these rock steels, you want to land those Hydro Pumps if you want to be able to win these matchups.
All right.
And then let's see the rest of this over here. We have so against things like Sableye, Umbreon, a little Marowak, the waters will be able to handle them really, really well, especially because Azu has Play Rough, and Play Rough is super effective against Sableye and Umbreon, and because a little Marowak is part fire, it can handle that group really, really well as well. And then, sorry if I'm rambling on. I'm just trying to get through this. All right, so for Probopass and the rest of this group up here, they can handle Bronzong and Jirachi quite well because those confusions aren't hitting for super effective. They're actually being resisted on the side of the steels, and overall the majority of these steel types are just walls, and they'll just purely just outlast the Jirachi and Bronzong group. And then also they can dominate the flyers really, really well. You guys, I'm sure, are aware of matchups like Altaria and Bastiodon. It gets walled there, and these flyers are going to get just wrecked by the steels. And then as well, these steels can do really, really well against Sableye. They might struggle against a little Marowak a little bit because of the Bone Club. And for the most part, Bastiodon and Probopass can handle the rest of that group. The only thing that they really struggle against is Umbreon because it is super, super thick. And yeah, that's all there is to really say about those. And then to wrap this up, we have the Sableye, little Marowak, and Umbreon. They are all able to handle Jirachi and Bronzong because they are part psychic, and they will also get wrecked. And then, last but not least, we have the Flyers, which, as a note here, Lugia will lose quite hard because it is part psychic as well. And for the most part, the only Pokemon that these Flyers will struggle against is going to be either Sableye or Umbreon, because Umbreon is really thick, as I said a minute or two ago, and yeah, it can handle pretty much all these Pokemon have really close matchups against each other. And yeah, that covers it.
All right, perfect. Obviously, I think up meta a lot of people like because there's a lot of different Pokemon in play.
Yeah.
So I guess my first question is we saw in Dortmund one of the winning strategies in Season 1 Championship, which is a different meta, admittedly, was running double flyer. Do you think it's advisable to run double flyer in Season 1 Championship?
Um,
And anyone can answer this.
yes, I would say yes, as long as you pack your either Lucario, Toxicroak. You can play some games with their minds, possibly swaying them to bring in Bastion, and then you lead with a fighter, and if you catch them off with that lead, you're in a really, really good spot. And then obviously the Flyers can do really well against a lot of the meta.
Mm-hmm.
So I would say 2 Flyers is a strategy that can definitely work, as we saw in championships.
Perfect. And if you do run 2 flyers, do you think it's Altaria Skarmory like we saw in Season 1 Championship, or do you think other flyers should get consideration? Anyone can answer this.
Yeah.
Caleb?
Lugia hype?
Caleb, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think Lugia is still really strong. I will say that it takes a lot of practice to utilize Lugia well. I know after I put out my first video about Lugia, some people have tried it and they're like, no, this just doesn't work well. But you really have to play Lugia as a specific role, in the sense that you have to use it to counter what it's supposed to use. I know in some situations it could, I think it potentially can beat Azumarill with Play Rough and Hydro Pump, depending on certain shield situations. But it just, in my opinion, that's just not a good use. It's not like Skarmory, where Skarmory has a lot of good neutral matchups. Lugia really should be used just for what you're countering things with. So that would be mostly the fighters and probably the poison grass in this situation.
The specialist.
Yes, absolutely. It definitely is interesting though, because things definitely have changed with Jirachi, with charm users, and just, people have kind of evolved their thinking in terms of the meta in general. I feel like I'd expect more lanterns as anti-flyers this time around after Worlds than just relying solely on the steel types. So we'll see. But I always am a fan of Lugia, especially because you don't need to have you can play at a shield disadvantage against Medicham and still win, and versus a lot of the other ones, you kind of have to be on even shields. A lot of other Medicham counters to be on even shields to kind of do well.
What makes Lugia so considerable is, one, like you said, the fighting matchups with the sidekick, the part sidekick and the part flying typing. Do you want to pet one of the cats?
Yeah.
Bring it down? Bring it? Yeah, let's go. Let's go, dude. But I mean, just how bulky it is, period, as a Pokemon, right? So not only is it going to be very, very resistant to any kind of fighting type damage, but it's just a bulk monster. And also having access to Sky Attack and Hydro Pump can be clutch. Like, yeah, Lugia is a considerable specialist.
Yeah.
Well, Twastel, I don't know if that's an appropriate question.
What I didn't even see what I know Squawk was asking me to pet my cat like Giovanni. I don't even see.
All right. I don't know. You could say a Skitty or a Delcatty. There's lots of options there. Purugly's a kind of a maybe a. All right. So, okay. So I think one of the comments people have in the chats, and this is a very important for the flyer anti-flyer consideration, is around Swampert and Azumarill. Is there redundancy? Would you recommend bringing both, or would you recommend just bringing one or the other?
I've tried, at least I've thought about trying that, like that exact kind of team of 3 where I'm going to have Azumarill, Swampert, and then either Medicham or Skarmory, for example. It's just, I can never really find success with it, with what I've tried at least. Maybe I'm just playing it terribly wrong,
Okay.
and I suck at PvP. But I don't know. It sounds good, but I just haven't been able to find any real success with it.
Yeah, so I think there is some similar coverage between the two, but there are also some pretty sharp differences between Azumarill and Swampert. So when you run Swampert, you do gain the matchup against Lantern, right? But you also then give up a very strong matchup against Altaria. You basically can't do very much against Altaria unless you're carrying Sludge Wave. Then you can at least do a little bit of damage, but it's not going to be that
True.
much compared to Azumarill basically walling Altaria. And then, but you also do then pick up the matchup against Skarmory more significantly. But then you also then have like very little. You have some recourse against the grass, but you have like not as strong a recourse as Azumarill with Ice Beam. So they are similar in nature, but they also have like flip some matchups that you might consider. And if people do see a rise in Swampert, you might also then see a corresponding rise in Altaria, as opposed to are you rubbing your Pikachu light up?
Well, I just realized how amazing and menacing Caleb looks like. Need to bring out the Rainbow Pikachu.
Yeah, so I think there's certainly some considerations for that. But so let's talk about anti-flyer. So Caleb, notion that some people might choose to bring. Well, we might see more Lantern as opposed to the other anti-flyers. What are people's thoughts around that?
Seeing Lantern more than let me go look at the graphic again. Other
Okay, I think
anti-flyers, I love Jirachi, number one. It's not necessarily a hard anti-flyer like Probopass, Steelix, or Bastiodon, or even Melmetal, but I love Jirachi for me personally, and having it sit next to Skarmory. I love those two right next to each other. I just feel more comfortable with that than I would using a Lantern right now for regionals.
Okay. Any other thoughts or considerations around? Okay, Caleb, maybe you can elaborate. Like, what's the main driver around bringing a Lantern as opposed to bringing a Probopass or a Bastiodon?
So I think, I didn't even think about this myself during the first Worlds in Chicago, but we saw that a lot of people were creative and chose to bring Lantern as an anti-flyer instead of Probopass or Steelix or Bastiodon. And I think good utility of that is Lantern beats all of those, and then additionally it also walls off Skarmory really well. And most people probably figure to bring Skarmory over Altaria because it's the superior of the two flyers in the head-to-head. And so I think this allows, the superior anti-flyer in some sense because it beats the steel types in the head-to-head. But I think the trade-off is you end up losing to Altaria. So it's more of an anti-flyer with the exception of countering Altaria. And so I think this would bring a lot of diversity to the meta because the first time around with regionals, I don't think anyone really brought Altaria, or at least the ones that didn't really have much success with it. But if people end up going with Lantern and even Swampert too, like you mentioned earlier, because Swampert beats Skarmory but doesn't beat Altaria, more people will bring Altaria than before, which I think helps diversify a little bit because besides like the few stray Lugias here or there and maybe like one or two Noctowls, it was mostly just all Skarmory the first time around. But I think this time around, I expect to see a lot more Altaria, even with Charm users in the mix.
Okay, and then so you said Altaria, even more Charm users, which is interesting to counter the rise in prevalence of Swampert, which I think is a really interesting consideration. And then for Swampert, are you again? Most people are going to run Mudshot, Hydro Cannon, and then do people recommend Earthquake or Sludge Wave?
Earthquake.
Or Muddy Water, Wait,
Not
yeah,
Muddy Water.
you didn't let me put the muddy water option. You can go back and change your answer if you want to muddy water.
No,
Muddy
that-
Water cheese.
So, earthquake. Why?
Counters the anti-flyers, but also Hydro Cannon does that as well.
Similar, like Twistel. I think it was Twistel brought up a point that earthquake and hydro cannon, and this is a previous conversation I had, have very similar coverage in terms of like taking care of the anti-flyers, for example.
Right. I would say that, yeah, because all the anti-flyers have an issue with the Hydro Cannon, right? I would say except for
Lantern.
the Lantern would get hit with the earthquake.
Yeah. So without the earthquake, and say Swampers carrying Sludge Wave, it's actually a much more even matchup with a Water Gun Lantern.
Right.
So without earthquake, it's can become a very challenging matchup. It doesn't become like a guaranteed win, with versus the lantern, as opposed to when you're running earthquake. It's very, very tricky. And then okay, and then how about for grass users? What are people favoring? I think in season 1 regionals we saw a lot of Venusaur, and people seem to really like Venusaur. Do you think since we've seen more advanced play with Victory Bell over the last few months since season 1 regional, do you think it has more consideration? Do you think Air Slash Tropius is the way to go? What do people think?
I would still probably go with Venusaur.
Okay. And how come?
Well, mainly because it doesn't get as walled as hard as Tropius and Victory Bell. It at least can fire off those sludge bombs quite quickly against the flyers, so it has that. And yeah, I would rather have that spammy charge move Frenzy Plant and have them shield it rather than, I suppose, having the raw damage output that comes from the Razor Leaf. And because Venusaur has slightly stronger matchups against things like Bastiodon and Probopass because it has Frenzy Plant, whereas the Razor Leaf users have a slightly harder time because they don't have that spammy charge move.
Yeah, that like really OP Frenzy Plant that does a ton of
Yeah.
damage. Leaf Blade's pretty good too, but you won't be able to spam them as quickly. So any other advocates for the other grass users or the grass types? Even pseudo grass types such as Gallade.
Yeah, Gallade for sure.
A ninja. Khalid is the ninja of the regionals meta.
You think just because of its flexibility, its
Yeah, same-
matchups against
Yes.
Same thing with
Medicham.
Boulder.
Because it also beats the other grass types too.
also beats other grass types. Does it beat Tropius? Probably not Tropius, right? With their slash.
No, probably not.
Pretty sure he's going to take a
Nah.
hard L against Tropius. I mean, yeah, with
Yeah,
Air
he's way
Slash,
too
oof.
squishy.
Yeah, that's going to be GG's.
Yeah, I think Air Slash Tropius is probably the strongest grass or pseudo grass.
So
type.
that's why Frampty Pants was using Air Slash against me. It makes sense. Okay.
Yeah. You knew that you were bringing the Gallade, right?
Yep.
So, but what are the cases? Should someone bring an Air Slash Tropius? What are the downfalls as opposed to a Razor Leaf Tropius or like a Venusaur with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant and Sludge Bomb?
You do sacrifice that ability to have a hard shutdown on the Mud Boys. I mean, I think that, that can go without saying, but also I think it's important to consider the matchups that you can gain from running Air Slash, then, Aerial Ace Leaf Blade on Atropius. It provides much different coverage. It's kind of similar to what we saw during the Rainbow Cup, right? With Charizard, when it first started, everyone had Fire Spin, and then Air Slash started to be a thing after Valor Ash was. I'm pretty sure it was Valor Ash. It'd be really embarrassing if I got that wrong, but Valor Ash used the Wing Attack Dragon Claw combo, and that started to trend. I think that can potentially end up being the same thing for Tropius. It's going to be hard to see their strategy coming. It's not so much. I feel like it used to be a Tropius. If I see a Tropius, I'm going to expect Razor Leaf, and almost every time it was Razor Leaf. But that I feel like that's gone now. It's not as predictable.
Yeah, I think one thing that Twastel pointed out, Air Slash Tropius does struggle against Azumarill with Ice Beam, because it obviously is not dealing that really OP Razor Leaf damage against Azumarill, so it can find itself in a tricky situation. Okay.
Doesn't the Air Slash Tropius also win in the mirror too?
For sure.
Right.
Wins in the mirror, which is I think a relevant consideration if you do get lined up. It's actually like a pretty devastating loss for the Razor Leaf Tropius. Getting hit by super effective damage versus double resisted can be quite painful.
Plus, flying will be able to go up against the fighters too.
Yeah, flying certainly put a lot more pressure on the fighting Pokemon, which is relevant, especially the ones that resist Razor Leaf, like Toxicroak and well, against Lucario, it's still neutral, but still can still deal like a lot of damage. So you don't also auto delete. You don't auto delete the Mud Boys, which might still be fine because Air Slash, Leaf Blade is very cheap to get to, and Air Slash is decent at generating energy. Okay, and then how about for teams of not teams of 6? How about for Charm users? Do you see a Charm user fitting in a team of 6? If so, what are the pieces around a Charm user that must be there in order to make it work?
I feel like no.
No to
I
Charm.
don't feel like Charm users are. Part of me feels like I'm really going to regret saying that, but I feel like Charm users don't really have a place for Regionals 2.0 for this Regionals Cup. I mean, the Poison presence, the Steel presence, it's just, I feel like it's a no. If we start to see Umbreon a lot more, since we are starting to see Sableye a lot more, I guess, then maybe. But for the most part, no. I mean, especially if you're going to use a Charm user as a Medicham counter or a Altaria counter, there's already better counters for that.
Okay. Any arguments on the other side? I think they brought up a lot of really good points.
I think Charm would actually be pretty good in the regionals because you have Altaria, you have Medicham, you have Sableye, you have Haunter. People bring in the Lugia, Caleb. So it's like, I think if Charm was around back then, I think Caleb would have a little bit of some trouble with Lugia.
Well, I think Caleb brings a extra sensory Lugia, not a Dragon Tail one.
All right.
So
Yeah.
he would Caleb smirking there with petting his cat and saying, "He'll be all right, Sean. Don't worry.
Okay.
Don't worry."
Giovanni himself.
Yeah, no, I think certainly Charm, is always going to be an interesting play in this in any meta that it's in. But obviously with the anti-flyers like Probopass, Bastiodon, Melmetal, and Steelix, it's gonna maybe a little less Steelix, but it's definitely gonna have like troubles against those, and it's gonna be a gamble. Like if you bring Charm, you bring a Charm user, and they have an Altaria, then obviously that's a huge leg up for you. If they bring a Skarmory, then it becomes a liability on your team because then that becomes another Pokemon that can hard counter a Charm user with only very little recourse, given how long it takes to get to a charge move. Any other flex pick that people should consider if they want to throw off their opponents, bring something interesting that might still be useful? if not, we can move on to the final one. So also remind people, don't forget to get those likes in so we can see some battles. Let's go to this one here. So Jay, I think it's your turn to it's late into the night, right? People might be dozing off, right? You don't want them to doze off, so you're about to give them some nightmare, right?
Oh, geez, let's do it. Nightmare. This
Okay.
makes me. I feel like Freddy Krueger right now.
Okay, once you walk us through the meta, and then walk us through what's changed in the meta.
Geez, so if you thought there were some tilty cups before, this is your worst nightmare. That's about as punny as it can possibly get. But I mean, it's true. So let me pull this up real quick just so I can see it in front of me. We have in the Nightmare Cup meta, Charm Gardevoir. It is absolutely insane. The dominance Charm Gardevoir has over the Nightmare Cup. I don't know why anybody would want to run a Nightmare Cup. Let's put that out there to begin with. And that's why. What is it? So I mean, if it has, let me see, Gardevoir. It's like a 91% win rate, isn't it? 2-2.
Yeah, there's only 3 Pokemon that beat it in the 2 Shield matchup. I think it's Bronzong, Metagross, and Metang.
And Metang, yeah. It's absurd. So I mean, that's from what you can see in the graphic. It's pretty much going to destroy everything. When I put together this graphic, it's going to be the main focus all day, every day. And then I kind of went off of its counters, then what can counter those, etc. That was my basic thought process with it. So I really don't like these arrows. I liked them before when it was smaller. I feel like they're a little too big. We can probably fix that before he tweet it out. So some interesting things to note about the Nightmare Cup. Again, not that anybody's going to ever run it, but the Poison Darks are actually, they can almost stand a chance against Gardevoir, and that's not really reflected in this graphic. For the most part, Metagross, Metang, and Bronzong are going to be the ideal counters to Gardevoir. And Gardevoir is just going to basically shred and utterly destroy everything else. Like, that's it. That's pretty much the meta. And it's really sad. Honestly, it's kind of disappointing to say that. But, when they put together these themes, nobody can really see the future.
And it might get better.
Hopefully. I really
hope not.
it's better than this.
No, I meant Gardevoir might become even better with its community day moves. So.
Oh, you're talking. I was thinking.
No, I don't mean the Nightmare gets better. The Nightmare gets worse, but
the Nightmare is just gonna get worse from there.
The Nightmare setter gets better.
It's pretty much what the meta is Gardevoir. What's gonna counter Gardevoir? Then what's gonna counter that counter? Like, that's it.
Yeah, and for me, Nightmare was already pretty very rock paper scissors cup with some novel strategies around double dark and double fighting, and now it becomes just Gardevoir, just absolutely. I've never seen a Pokemon come in and just absolutely destroy the meta. It's actually pretty astounding in terms of understanding how metas can be. I should watch the video on power creeping, like when new moves get introduced, how it can create tremendous power creeps in metas. And this is not just a power creep. This is like a power mega jerk, right? So just absolutely the worst of the worst. So, but if your city is running all the cups, then it's important to know what can actually beat Gardevoir.
I mean, I think it could be interesting, if people do it and they just ban Gardevoir, for example. Because, Bronzong did get a considerable upgrade. Gallade can get Charm, but Gallade is going to be different overall.
It takes super effective damage from Charm. So
yeah.
It's Gardevoir versus Gallade. It's a pretty one-sided matchup.
Mm-hmm.
But if people are running it, then that's a at least they should know the meta and how to play the meta outside the Gardevoir mirror match that's going to happen on every single lead. So
what I would love to see is somebody actually host some big crazy Nightmare Cup. Gardevoir's not banned, and then somebody wins and does not have Gardevoir on their team.
yeah, okay. I think John's coughing because he doesn't believe that's going to be possible. That would be an absolutely extraordinary feat if someone wins without a Gardevoir in Nightmare Cup, like a big cup. Like
That puts into perspective
Okay.
how tilty it is.
are we putting your friend code on the line? If someone wins a 5+ round
Oh damn.
Without Gardevoir?
Without
Against
Gardevoir.
Gardevoir teams? Yes.
Yeah.
I will give you my friend code
boom,
instantly.
and he'll open gifts for 30 days straight.
Straight.
There you
And
go.
send.
So, yeah, so it would be an extraordinary feat if someone. Any other relevant Pokemon that people should consider?
Yes. We should not forget that we should be bringing in Gardevoir.
Yeah, don't leave that one off your lineup, right? And it's got a community day move, so everyone's gonna have access to it, right? And have good IV ones and. Yeah. So looks like D Master Lane says he's coming for your challenge, Jay. So
I love it. Go for it. That would be a win-win. Be friends with D Master Lance and see him pull off that astonishing feat.
Jay Devin, you should make your challenge a little bit even more appealing. If D Master Lance does it, you also give him your hat.
Nope. Not happening. Nope. No way,
Yeah.
dude. Never.
yeah, and unfortunately, they can't enforce rules in addition to what Silpharina prescribes, like banning Gardevoir, or it won't be a rank cup. So
Oh, really?
yeah,
I didn't even
'Cause
know that.
That's actually one of the things that was brought up early in Boulder. I was like telling like one of the tournaments, I'm like, can we just enforce like not bringing any doubles? And then they tried to, and then I think a lot of people floated around that idea, and then I think Silpharina shut that down. And I think it's just to prevent people from like building rules like in favor of like tournament organizers or whatnot. So I understand why the rule is in place, but
It makes sense, yeah.
It's
That's,
totally-
I mean, it's unfortunate, because it's kind of a double-edged sword now that this Nightmare Cup 2.0 is even a thing. It even exists in the first place.
yeah. Hopefully, Hopefully, it's not anyone's just solo cup that they're running. Okay. Think so a big no for Nightmare, right?
No, do not do it unless you're D-Master
Mhm.
Lance.
And is your- no
Definitely
other
not.
considerations. So Caleb, you're probably in an interesting situation because like you're probably gonna qualify for the Ultimate Showdown on the East Coast, like very high likelihood. I wouldn't be surprised if you weren't. So you're gonna have to participate in a Nightmare Cup against some of the best players.
Yeah,
How
I mean,
do you what are some of your initial thoughts on
just because I just don't want to do Nightmare in general. But if I do qualify, I think I would love to run a no Gardevoir team, but even for me, I think that's a little too off meta. But we'll see. Yeah, I think Nightmare and Boulder are definitely two of the least ones I'm looking forward to. But I think it'll be a lot of fun just in general just to play against some top ranked players. And
Yeah, if we're gonna see any innovative play in any cup, we're definitely gonna see it in the Ultimate Showdown. That's gonna happen on I think August. I don't know when the European one is, so don't.
I think it's
hold me.
August 31st, so it's the last one, I believe.
Oh, okay. Isn't Philly also August 31st? Are they at the same time?
Yeah, so the Ultimate Showdown, there's one on the 31st in Philly, and then I think there's one on the 24th, so the week before in Seattle.
Yeah, and I think there's also a European one, so
Yeah.
Westell or somebody can. The Ultimate Showdown, throwing a cat at your opponent. So that's
Yeah.
that can be your strategy, right? So they lead with Gardevoir. Boom, just take one of your cats and they'll take out them and the.
Super effective damage if they're allergic to cats too. So
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we'll see some like interesting play and some innovative strategies from people, and unfortunately it relegates, like, it completely changes the meta. Like, I've never seen like one Pokemon like literally shift. It's quite astounding.
yeah. We thought that Vigoroth was bad for jungle, but they outdid us here.
Yeah, it's just very interesting. Considering that Charm, it's not that Charm is like so OP. Just because like we see Charm in other metas, and a lot
It's
of times
the fact that there's only
in the fact that
dark and fighting. Like,
it's typing is what ultimately makes it really interesting, along with Charm. Because there's other, obviously Gardevoir or Gallade also has Charm, but because of its typing, being psychic but also having fairy makes like all the dark moves neutral.
Gardevoir comes in, double dark? No! Double fighting? No! It shuts everything down.
Yeah,
The double
no.
steal. It's a new meta.
Yeah, for sure. It brings up the steel psychics, right? So it brings them a little further up into the consideration. So, okay. So how many likes are we at right now?
144.
Okay, if we get to 150 in the next 3 minutes, we'll see Jake do some battles, or else we'll end the stream. So, whoever. Okay, so. Okay, everyone, each person can answer. Top 2 favorite cups. Oh, okay.
I got
Twilight Regionals.
Twilight Regionals. Okay,
here.
same. Caleb?
Mhm. Yep.
I'm gonna have to say Rainbow and Twilight.
Okay, yeah, Rainbow. I think a lot of people liked Rainbow because like there was a lot of really interesting Pokemon. Okay, we're at 153, 154. Just keep climbing, guys. Okay. So okay, now we're at 159. So let's set up some matches. Jake is are the three of you guys ultra friends with Jake? Caleb?
Yes.
Yeah, we all are, I believe.
Okay.
Happened today, actually.
Yeah, we hit Ultra today.
Oh, very nice. Timely, right?
Yeah.
So, impeccable time. Can you, Jake? Do you have your phone set up already?
Yeah, I do.
Okay. So, we're gonna do. Each person's gonna do a different cup, and then we're just gonna rotate. So, type in the chat what cup John Firmakis should go against Jake.
Get some battles.
Call me Jake, right?
Oh, here we go.
Just spam the chat. Which
Oh, God.
which cup should it be?
J Farm Nightmare 2.0.
Please, no Nightmare, please.
Okay, we see Twilight.
Twilight.
Hype. Look.
Regionals.
You realize that we can't repeat the cups either. So like once it's taken off the board, you won't see Jay or Caleb take it. Oh man, okay. This is
Damn. I wish there was like a poll system. You know what I mean? Like,
well, if I
I
was,
feel
if
like
I-
it's even between Twilight and Regional.
if I was a little bit more clever.
See more regionals now.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Oh, I'm seeing Twilight more now.
No, we see. You guys are-
Yeah, now there's Twilight more now that I said that.
I really wish I had a better setup, but not. Okay. The next three without repeating people that I see, whatever it's gonna be.
we got regionals.
Please,
Twilight.
one more
Okay,
say.
one more. Let's see what the tiebreaker is. Twilight. Okay, Twilight
Yes!
it is. Twilight it is.
Twilight.
All right, okay,
Yes.
Neato.
Oh
John.
man, here we go.
Get off the chat. I don't want to hear you laughing when you win the lead.
Oh no!
Okay, you don't need to vote anymore. We'll vote in the next one. So, John, get off, and then Jake, share your screen. I'm gonna.
All right.
I'm gonna
Wait, are these gonna be like teams? Teams of 6 or just?
Oh yeah, DM each other your teams.
All right. Okay.
Okay, John, you got that?
Yeah, I'm just trying to put a team together right now.
Yeah. Okay, perfect.
All right. All right. I'll share my screen.
All right, perfect. Okay, so Jake, Caleb, let's pull up Twilight here. What do you think are some strong Pokemon to consider on each person's team?
I think
Whoa.
Skuntank still holds up pretty well.
Yeah. Oh my
this
gosh,
time
we're gonna
around.
get a seizure. Jake, we need your background is going nuts.
What?
Okay, there you go. It's stable now. Okay. It was oh man, we're gonna get that's in case John's watching, right? Throw him off. Trying to peek at the stream. No, you ain't, man. No, you ain't.
No.
You can't see my lead.
I'm leaving the chat once I'm ready.
Let me just,
Oh my god! All right.
increase the size here. Okay, clearly not very experienced in that. So, okay, there you go. It looks decent. I should probably actually bring this. Boom. All right, I'm just gonna.
He's used to Jake and missing out on that 100% dust docs. Oof.
Ooh, man, you should max that dust stock. So, but maybe another time. So this is his team. I'm assuming John is gonna show his team. All right. Okay. Damn, Jake, you're busy on the DMs.
Yeah, you see all those messages? Holy cow. Shaggy's got it going on with all these conversations.
I think people take his name too seriously when they say, "Call me Jake," right? So they call him over Discord. That's why his things blows up. So okay, all right. So okay, what do you think are some strong lines? We obviously don't know what John's team is quite yet. Let me ask John if he can tell us. John,
I think people might
who's your team?
underestimate Clefable.
I think Clefable's interesting.
Yeah, he still has it apparently on his
Okay,
6.
so he's running Gardevoir. He's running double charm users potentially. Gardevoir, Togekiss, Venomoth, Skuntank, Toxicroak, Azumarill. So obviously Venomoth, strong play against like 3 of the Pokemon. Depending if the Gardevoir has Confusion or not. Like if the Gardevoir has Confusion, it's obviously going to be a tough situation for the Venomoth. Probably has Charm, but we'll see. And then obviously has positive matchups against Togekiss and Toxicroak, and pretty good situation against Azumarill. So
We're going to see that bite Drapion in action that he's talking about all the time.
Let's see what the Gardevoir has. Could be Charm or Confusion. What do you think, Caleb? You think he's running?
I feel like it's got to be Charm.
Because he already has Venomoth as a.
Yeah, I don't know, and he already has Togekiss, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, it's like this double Charm or double. It's actually a very confusing
yeah,
lineup.
exactly.
It's actually a very confusing lineup. He could be carrying double Confusions or double Charm.
If Jake had double Moth, if he had Venomoth and Dustox, it would definitely have a heyday with this team.
Yeah.
Fortunately, he doesn't. But it's just strange.
It's actually very confusing. Like I when I look at this lineup, it could be either one. It could be pretty tricky.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Okay. Twastel's telling us what move it is, but don't say it in case Jake can hear it. So we'll let him find out. It's pretty confusing, to be honest. Like we kind of initially I looked at this lineup and like, oh yeah, I know exactly what to run. But then you kind of like take a double take because like they're dramatically different moves in this meta. Like one is super effective against poison types, one is resisted.
Yeah.
It definitely puts on the mind game pressure. You know, it's going to make you think a lot about your picks. I mean, if I was going to go up against a 6 like that, I don't think I'd be able to function as a human being anymore. My brain would shrink.
Okay. Jake's locked in. Okay,
Triple
John.
contact that lineup.
Okay, let's see how this goes. Clefable. Oh, Skunk Tank. This well, you know,
Fable delete.
depends if he's willing to burn a shield, right? Because they're both chunking away, right? But obviously the difference here is that Skunk Tank can get to a charge move. But the thing is, like, the Meteor Mash, is it going to have enough energy? I'm pretty sure it does, right?
Yeah. And he gets baited too, so.
Yeah.
But I actually didn't realize this Clefable could do.
Oh, wow. It actually survived.
Up to 2.
Oh, wow. Is that a break point?
Maybe.
Ooh, he elects.
Oh.
He doesn't shield. Okay. I don't know. Well, this is a tough call. Like, do you want to be down no shields, right?
I wouldn't feel like the Meteor Mash would be worth it.
This is
I've
this is a very gutsy move here, especially with. Oh, there you go. They're chunking away at each other.
Okay. Here's
They're chunking away at each other.
Yep.
Wow. These, like, Gardevoir definitely has confusion there.
Yeah, I would not shield if. Oh, okay. Well,
No, I wouldn't switch out if I was Jake.
Oh.
Oh, that's like actually a really bad move.
What would it get to at this point?
Because
Shadow
like,
Ball?
it's gonna resist the confusion damage. He must think it's still charm.
Oh,
because these confusions are hurting.
What's happening? What's happening to my Venomoth?
Oh, and he doesn't have Poison Fang on his Azumarill. That's why he needs a Dustox. Oh, he shields anyways. Oh, I guess
Sludge Wave either on Tentacruel, so
he just has Acid Spray.
Yeah, that's going to be GG's. I mean, it's just
without that poison. I think you can't run. No, you can't run. I don't want to say that, but it's a much more difficult situation to run Venomoth without the poison move.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because then basically you have like a very losing matchup against Azumarill.
I mean, we saw that pay out for John in game 1 with everything we were talking about. Is it charm? Is it going to be confusion? We saw, hey, charge TM hype. I mean, but we saw that it worked. So that's maybe a considerable strategy. I really haven't been looking too much into Twilight for myself, so I don't know if that's been in Discords or been on the Silk Arena subreddit or anything quite yet.
I think one of Jake's strategies is to hit it with the Acid Spray, and then as he's talking about earlier, to come in with Venomoth, and to do like a huge amount of damage. But Gardevoir is a psychic type,
Mhm.
right? Psychic fairy, so it's going to resist that confusion. Bringing it down 2 stages does bring it back about a little bit more than neutral, like. But it's a tricky situation.
It's not the most ideal situation to try and use
And then,
that
like,
strategy. And
But losing in the one shield was like, not fainting the skunk tank was pretty costly. I don't know if it's like a break point on. It must be IVs because D Master Line's saying that they win with just one shield.
It definitely, I really think it does come down to IVs because I played that exact situation out against Jake and I lost every time before I could get to the second crunch.
Yeah, no, there was
Yeah.
Toronto skunk tanks are strong for whatever reason, right? So
I think the tricky thing with Tentacruel now with Acid Spray is it's very easy to predict what is coming at you because the difference between Acid Spray and Hydro Pump.
but some people build up to hydro. I think quality
Yeah.
players bring up to build up
Right,
to
right,
hydro pump,
Right, yeah,
and then like switch it up because you don't want to get nuked by hydro pump. On
Exactly.
the it's devastating.
yeah. Yeah, it's just tricky.
Okay, so leading with Azumarill, Toxicroak, and Tentacruel. So let's see.
Is he trying to bait the confusion user on a switch?
Okay, so let's see what moves. So he has Ice Beam. In theory, this should play out slightly
Yeah.
in favor of Azumarill with Ice Beam.
I mean, if we see a silver win here, my guess is, okay, he has legacy. That's good.
Yeah,
Um,
it's not a dominating win for
Yeah.
Azumarill, but it should be a win in all shield scenario, if I
Definitely.
recall correctly.
How many poison fangs
Man, he
from a
can't
Venomoth
switch.
would it
Yeah.
take to TKO? Was it 3?
With the
Yeah.
confusion damage, yeah, probably like
Probably 2.
2.
Yeah.
The problem is Jake really needs to take out this Venomoth because on the
Yeah.
back end he's got a Tentacruel and a.
And I think he's playing like monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah.
Realizing like, okay, if I don't shield, John's not going to shield. You win the one shield.
Right.
You win all shield
That was
scenarios, but you definitely can, because like if he would have shielded and invested like 2 for 1 shield, it would put Jake in all sorts of trouble. Ooh, choosing to come.
Oh.
Toxicroak.
That's interesting strategy. He must have like, what would he have in the back that would be afraid? Like, I don't know what he could possibly have in the back that would be afraid of.
John didn't run Umbreon, did he?
Azumarill. No, he has Gardevoir, Togekiss, Skunk Tank, and Azumarill. Otherwise, like, what would he bring that? Like, literally, almost any of those other Pokemon may be.
Right.
Maybe the Gardevoir?
Maybe
Maybe
the
is the
Togekiss?
Gardevoir sitting in the
Maybe-
back?
Maybe he's afraid of the Togekiss.
Oh,
the
the Togekiss.
Togekiss. The Togekiss. He was afraid of that Ice Beam.
But he was gonna burn the shield anyway. Although I do think that if him bring the Toxicroak allowed him to build up quite a bit of energy versus.
But he didn't
So-
take it. He didn't take advantage of it. He fired
Yeah,
off a mud bomb.
exactly. I'm surprised he didn't fire anything off. But
Just farm
with
it up.
Togekiss been able to get to a charge move even after shielding. So
Yeah, because that would have put, it would have put him in like quite a bit of danger if he would have actually just strictly farmed it up.
yeah, I probably if I was him I would have farmed up this Tentacruel a little bit more because
Yeah.
he needs 2 mud bombs ready for that Toxicroak with a shield and Jake already has a mud bomb ready. So
It's definitely
Yeah.
a wrap
That's
there.
yeah.
Well played. Well played.
So, I mean, that was kind of a show me mine. I'll show you yours. Jay Farmer's hit his strategy work out really well, I think, for game 1. Jake came back, said, no, it's not going to go down 2-0 like this.
Yeah, it's a risky play though. Like, if that Venomoth, if he would have identified and like shielded with that Venomoth, like it would definitely been like quite a bit different game. Tons of pressure.
So this is for the 3 then. What do you-
Couldn't.
Are we going to see the Bite Drapion? I'd like to see Jake bring the Bite Drapion out.
Well played, Jake. Right. So. But yeah, definitely John would have been in a much better situation. He might have been like at almost 2 mud bombs if he would have just strictly farmed down the Zoom roll. And choosing
Twastel asking me, what if someone's running Sludge Wave on the Tentacruel? Because I was talking about earlier about
for sure. It's
Acid Spray being predictable on Tentacruel. I think the big difference is from my scrimmages. Like if they are running Acid Spray at all, you can usually like count the difference. I mean, they could be bluffing acid or bluffing a Sludge Wave or Hydro Pump and use Acid Spray later, but the difference between an Acid Spray and a Hydro Pump or Sludge Wave is pretty big. So that's the only reason why I say, like, you know, Acid Spray Tentacruel is kind of tricky to use unless you bluff, you know, the Hydro Pump or bluff the Sludge Wave and actually use Acid Spray.
That's true.
But yeah, I mean, definitely experienced players will definitely hold on to it, but you know, in a non-favorable matchup, sometimes you would just shoot the Acid Spray as soon as
so
possible.
this should be a favorable matchup for.
Yeah.
This is actually a really tough matchup for Jake here.
It also depends if that Stuntic has Flamethrower or not.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, it's going to definitely be a little bit closer. And also, depending if Jake shields. And he
Oh, it
chooses-
has flamethrower.
Oh.
It has flamethrower. This is gonna be a very tricky situation.
Twastel's a big advocate for Flamethrower, and this is definitely a good reason why you should run it for these Poison Dark matchups. And the Mirror, especially.
Let's see if he
Chooses
chooses
to stick it out.
Yeah. Yeah, so,
I expect Jake not to shield here.
yeah.
Yeah.
This is a really good matchup, too, because that Drapion has Bite, too. So even if he shielded, he probably wouldn't have gone to the Aqua Tail before getting faded out by the poison jabs either. So that's a good call.
Oh man, it might get crunched though. No.
Yeah.
Well, he's up a shield, right? So let's see if he has a counter to the Clefable. He has Gardevoir.
I think that was a decent move by Jake, just because he knew that if he takes out the Skuntank, and that was likely the only.
But this is a bad situation for Jake because he only has Venomoth in the back, and he's gonna switch out to do some.
He's probably not going to end up using really any shield for maybe one.
Oh, okay. I would say depends on what
Yeah.
he has in the back. It might have been better not to use the charge move to get off more confusion damage.
Yeah. But if he has a Toxicroak, okay. Well,
it's GG.
No.
No, actually, no. You could hit the Psychic, or go for the boost. I don't know.
Yeah. But I think it's still going to be a little tough without the poison pain.
Yeah,
So not shielding that flamethrower in the beginning put on a lot of pressure on Jake for the rest of the match. I mean, when you put yourself in that kind of position, you have to play out the rest of the match almost perfectly. You have to read the team. You have to predict what their next move could be. Pay attention to what they're doing.
Oh, could Jake? Oh man, he's close.
Yeah. I think he was like one confusion away from being able to undertap that, but I guess
it's tough. Like, but I don't know. In that situation, like you played out, I would at least consider. I don't know if I would do it. I'd probably do what Jake did, but at least consider the silver win. Because like it's like, well, you don't not how many times do you hit a psychic on a zoom roll, right?
Yeah, I mean, if I'm in a spot
that is so
tough and
frustrating.
that close, yeah, I would try and get the.
That was you played well. Yeah, you played well. It's just
Not having Poison Fang hurt me in that closing matchup.
Yeah, you definitely would have took it. You would have took it in the closing match, or bringing in Dust Socks, would have put you in a better situation. Okay, all right.
Hey.
Type in the chat where you want Caleb to go up against Jake. You guys both played very well.
GG's.
GG's.
Okay, type
GG,
in the
Jake.
chat what we want people to do. Okay, Caleb's putting his
Nightmare.
Okay. Rainbow.
See some solid votes in the chat already, so I think we should consider those.
Jungle.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Do you guys even have a
Almost.
Gardevoir already?
Oh
did
my
not.
gosh.
I do with confusion though.
Wait,
I could team it though.
You could
Rip.
I need a TM.
do you have,
Wait. So Jake, just a quick question, just because
okay, Caleb,
was in the-
Caleb, you're gonna have to battle anyways, right? Under
I
Nightmare.
do.
So
But- I did not. I was waiting for Community Day to find a.
you know you don't have to bring a guard. Okay, Jake, how about
But-
this? No, actually, let's see if you can battle back without a Gardevoir,
Okay, we're gonna have to.
Let's see it.
or you're gonna make a Gardevoir.
I don't have one ready. I don't have one under 1500.
Okay,
No.
Caleb, I trust your skills. You can battle back from somebody with a Gardevoir with no Gardevoir. Do you have a you have a Bronzong, right?
I do not. So
Do you have a
You have
a Matang?
Metagross?
let me see. I might be able to make a Matane real quick.
Tanger Metagross, yeah.
Oh, he's doing it. Oh man! All right, we're seeing it. Okay, we're seeing Nightmare.
Alright, we're good.
Yeah, this is a real nightmare, to be honest.
Caleb, just remember, this was chat's idea. I told him,
I'm aware.
don't do it.
There was some Discord coordination too while you all were battling on
Oh,
how to
gosh.
get the votes in, but you know, oh, we can. All right, let's see if I can.
Dustin has faith in you.
Oh man.
Ooh,
I'm not ready for this either, to be honest.
Okay, do you have your
Yeah.
team of 6 ready?
One second. What? I don't even know what piece of Gardevoir in this.
AJ's like, how
Ooh.
dare you accuse us? So
I
There's
feel like
actually-
we're about to watch somebody be burned at the stake.
have some faith in.
Yeah, this is interesting. Okay.
I think Jake's gonna bring Gardevoir, Acrylia, and Aralts. This is gonna be his entire team. I'm just gonna just run with that.
Oh my goodness.
Let me see if I have.
Okay. Dwasa
I
saying,
will. Yeah, this is. I'm trying to think what my previous teams were. All right, I almost have it. Well, if you all want to see a no Gardevoir team, it's about to happen. That'd be weird.
If I had a cat, I'd be laughing, swirling my wine, and petting my cat. I mean, what does that laugh sound like?
I mean, if my cats could laugh, they'd be laughing along too. All right, let me message you.
Okay, Zachary Rodriguez says, if you win, Caleb, I'll be open to adding you as a friend. Jeez, yeah, we're doing Nightmare as voted on by the poll in chat. You want to post yours in the
Why is this going
you
on
did,
right now?
Okay.
I just posted the battlers.
Okay. Jake,
You want me to-
finish it and send it to.
All right.
Okay. Caleb, you want to hop off?
Yep.
Good luck.
What, Jake? You're gonna need it for this one.
Oh my goodness.
Fire!
And okay, so Caleb is electing to
Give
go.
Caleb in chat.
Caleb's electing to go. No Gardevoir, and no Gardevoir counter.
Caleb's gonna win J Devin's hat.
So he's gonna come Zatu, Toxicroak, Drapion, Alolan Muck, Claydol, and Poliwrath. And this is Jake Tint's in your team. You can just post in the battlers. Yeah, there you go.
Claydol. Does the Claydol have Mud Slap?
Yeah. Man, this is. Okay, let's do this.
Caleb is a gladiator right now. He'll be welcomed back like a hero.
All right, let's see this. So I am anticipating that Gardevoir is going to be included in the team of 3 on Jake's side, and then to account for the Gardevoir, like his best shot is the Alolan Muck, but it takes Alolan Muck quite a while to get to. Especially
You get Sludge Wave?
to get to Sludge Wave. I don't even know if it
Yeah.
gets to it. Okay.
With are you thinking with Poison Jab or with
Ooh, it actually. Oh, this is like a non-maxed out Gardevoir. So. No, Alolan Muck has positive matchups against. Positive matchups against Gardevoir. So we expect that he's gonna, if he wants to win, he needs to line up a Alolan Muck with Gardevoir, and then I think everything else loses. But he might elect to go Toxicroak with Poison Jab, right?
that could be interesting.
Which would put it in a much closer matchup. It would leave. It would actually leave in the one shield. It would leave Gardevoir with 4 HP, at burning one shield, and not enough energy to get to Shadow Ball or Dazzling Gleam. So if he comes in with Alolan Muck, he would finish it all before he gets a charge move off. So, ooh, he
That's
goes
the play to make.
Claydol. Okay, interesting. Well, that's probably not a good. He's gonna switch out to Zatu. Oh, interesting. And well, man, let's see if he shields or not. If he comes, is it Aerial Ace? Yeah, Aerial Ace. It's gonna do a lot of damage. Looks like Caleb was lagging a little bit, but is he gonna let Caleb get off? He chooses to farm it up. So,
Wow.
Man, this is a tough matchup. It's a tough matchup because you want to come back with Claydol. You have to shield. There's no way you don't shield. And he's built up a decent amount of energy, and it's like 7-8 poison jabs. Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I think it's another one.
So much energy built up.
Wow.
Does Claydol have extra sensory?
Yeah, it does. Which is going to allow it to farm up a little more. Oh, it's going to get... Obviously, this Gardevoir comes in, it's going to be hit with like a lot of damage. What does it have? Earth Power...
Get Earth Power, Gyro Ball. Gyro Ball
Power.
can be super
Gyro Ball.
effective to the
Is it going to
Gardevoir.
get to another... Oh, okay. This is not a great Oh, he's coming with bite.
Ooh,
Oh man, that cheese.
a bite muck, a bite Alolan muck.
But Earth Power is gonna come out. But the thing is, like, how much
Wow.
how much can he farm up this? He's gonna try to aggressively farm up.
Check out the Earth Power.
He's gonna let it go because he needs. And he's just gonna get Shadow Ball though.
Yeah, it's gonna be
He has
GG's.
bite on Muck, really? Okay. He might have been better off with Poison Jab. Really, bite on Muck, because it's neutral as opposed to super effective. Bites down on Gardevoir, so no shields. Oh, okay.
I wonder how many TMs he used building this team.
So, but that was a lot closer matchup, right? Like no Gardevoir, like yeah, like in winning one shield, but it was like a decent matchup. Like line up the leads a little bit better, like leading with Muck. Things might be different. He leads with Muck. What does he switch into?
So do you think it's playable?
Man. Oh Jesus! Like he's probably gonna come Muck. Come Muck. Let's see.
He's waiting for the switch.
Oh man, this Claydol is. Oh, he's willing to burn the shields.
Does he burn one and then go muck? Gyro Ball.
I think Earth Power is only 50 energy, so I think he's trying to gamble to get.
He's trying to switch.
You think he's trying to switch?
I think so. I think he's trying to do, you know, the thing where like it's using his fast move is going off as he's trying to do the switch, so it's airing on him.
And it won't register the switch, yeah.
Yeah.
This Dazzling Gleam will hurt if he doesn't shield. He chooses shield, recognizes it's gonna hurt a ton.
See, he tried it again.
I assume you come up your fellow Muck, right? And then Mirror, you have Poison Jab, you're gonna generate energy quicker. But he should get to the charge move. Oh, he's still gonna get to
Definitely should be favorable towards the Poison Jab muck, yeah.
Oh man!
Look,
What a calculation though. Like look
no
at that.
shield. 0.5 HP.
Wow. Sludge Wave.
That was like let's see if he comes Drapion with
Take on him.
This is still a tough matchup for him though. But Earth Power, he doesn't shield. Oh man, that's like because this Aqua Tail is gonna do. Actually, no. Well, these extra sentry is still doing a lot of damage. Let's see if he shields or not. He does shield. The Aqua Tail wouldn't KO, but he's gonna do back-to-back Aqua Tails. But the thing is, Jake might be able to like. Oh wow! Okay, he landed it.
Wow.
But he might be. I was gonna say he might be. I don't know. This is gonna be This is a good matchup.
Yeah, he beat it with Aqua Tail.
Is he gonna just feint it down? I think he just I think he just chooses to feint down, then feint down to the Muck with an Aqua Tail, if it's enough. Wow!
GG, dude, what?
Caleb!
Oh
Damn!
my gosh, dude.
Caleb! Pang! Oh my!
Dude. He played around it.
Wow!
Do you have a box? to ship the hat to Caleb?
I think the winning move was gambling on the Muck that it wouldn't KO the fellow Muck and getting off the Sludge Wave. Wow. That was impressive. That was like Jesus.
Wait.
King, I don't know if you noticed, but you know how Jay Devin has to send Caleb his hat?
Yeah.
He changed his hat.
It changed. Did you change your hat?
If he takes this best of 3,
Wait. You change-
you need to buy another hat, man.
Man. Like, oh, that's why I thought
And all those pins. I can't
think-
afford to buy all those pins
I
again.
did think Jake needed to bring a fighting Pokemon to address like all the poison darks that can potentially check Gardevoir. Wow, man, that calculation there, so huge. Like
Oh, crazy.
that was a gutsy move by Caleb. Absolutely gutsy.
It was a ace play indeed.
Yeah, so this is a interesting matchup too. Let's see how he plays it out. Man, those
Charms.
charms are just chunking away. Let's see how he plays it out. He's gonna shield. Oh man, he's gonna go for the crunch afterwards. Let's see if he switches out. Oh, he couldn't get to
You
it.
wait too long. Try to be too greedy.
He has
So Nightmare Cup, the charm will delete you.
muck, right? And then, ooh, those bites are devastating. He has to shield here, though. I don't see like a way where he doesn't shield this. And he's just gonna bite down on this Gardevoir. It does a ton of damage, though.
Makes me
It's
feel a
like
little bit better
I
overall
expect-
about the Nightmare Cup to see that, there are ways to play around it. Very impressive performance. And like you said, the calculations
He's
have
still
been
gonna
nuts.
Ice punch. And this ice punch, non boosted, right? So, but still does a lot of damage. This is a huge uphill battle. If Caleb can pull this off, I will be thoroughly impressed.
Wow.
But this is like a Earth Power. He lets it go through. The thing is, like, you have to be really careful here to see if Caleb is going to build up a ton of energy and then switch out to Muck. If
That would be a good idea.
If the clock allows it. No, it's not
No.
going to allow it. And it's like Jake's going to shield for sure. Yep. Look for
There
the-
it is.
Swapped. He
look
swapped.
Did he go for the Earth Power? He
Yeah.
did.
Suicide swap.
But this Claydol has more health than Caleb's Claydol. Like, I don't see
Yeah.
how it comes.
Oh. He's
The
trying to swap.
The Poliwrath also has too much health as well. Like if Caleb's, I don't see how he wins either way. But if his Claydol had more health than Jake's, then he could potentially Earth Power. But
Yeah.
even Earth Power at this HP is too much.
Still, amazing job by Caleb.
Amazing,
hands down.
Jesus.
Hands down.
I
Okay.
literally had to change hats.
Jay, you get to keep your hat,
Jay's
man.
change your hat back, right?
Oh man, I'm so surprised he won that game in the middle there. That was really well played.
Okay, come back on. Wow. Okay, who said Nightmare was boring? Who said Nightmare
Hey.
was boring? Caleb, man, I think you can do it.
Yeah, it seems like it gets kind of wrecked by like bite. Certainly
Yeah,
hurts a lot.
I just had bite on it, so I just didn't bother TMing it. But, it worked out okay because I figured it'd do decent against a Claydol too. So
Yeah, that was impressive. Like, okay,
You mean to tell
walk,
me
walk us through that?
you
second,
did that by accident?
The second battle. The second
So-
battle when you decided not to shield.
yeah. Wait, which part in the second battle?
When it
Or
was
did
a
you-
Alolan Muck versus a Alolan Muck, and he did a
Oh,
Dark
right.
Pulse, and you decided not to shield.
Yeah, because I think I had Claydol. Was it Claydol on the back? Oh no, Drapion on the back. And I figured I needed a shield because if he had Claydol on the back, Earth Power can take out my Drapion before I could finish it off with Aqua Tails or Crunch. But yeah, so that was kind of my rationale. And then I only had Sludge Wave on my Alolan Muck, so I didn't have any other option but to go for Sludge Wave with Bite. So yeah, that one worked out.
Okay, wow, okay. Wow, okay, that's
Yeah. I in game 3, I don't know if I would have won with this, but I had an Aqua Tail saved on my Drapion. I was trying to get to I don't know why. I was trying to like build up extra energy for some reason, but I got pinned down with a charm before I could use the second Aqua Tail. Which
I thought it was, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, the charm
It
it
definitely
deletes.
would have made a difference. Like we were banking that you were gonna land it,
Yeah.
but it was gonna be super close if you were gonna land it. But yeah, well played. You showed that you can play around Gardevoir, right? It's not so invincible, right? The hype is hype
It's
is
playable.
real, but okay.
Playable,
Let's
and you
do-
did it without the steal.
Steals, yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
Alright,
it was
guys.
not fun. I would not try that again.
Hats off to you, sir. Literally.
Literally,
My hat was off.
Okay, Caleb, this is how nervous J Devin was. He switched hats. He switched hats so he would mail you a different hat.
I need to.
John was saying I needed to get a box so I could ship it to you.
Oh God.
All right, guys, I gotta get off.
Okay,
I have work
okay.
early tomorrow.
Okay, yeah.
Thank you
Anyways,
guys
it's
for
getting
having
really
me.
late, so we'll
Yeah.
save the matches for another time. But thank you everyone for joining. And if you haven't already checked out these great content creators, definitely check out their channels. The links are in the description. Definitely give them a subscription. You can tell by their battle abilities that they definitely deserve it, and they did yeah. I'm blown away by those matches. Like really great job on everyone's part, and thank you guys for joining and best of luck everyone with their Mirror Cup matches.
Yeah, thanks for having us. And
Thank you, guys.
anti shout out to everyone that voted for Nightmare on that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah, I agree.
You know who you are.
Good night,
That was
guys.
all Go Stadium.
Have a good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night, guys.